Hello and welcome to MotorMotion E-Series. We are back for the final round of Season 3 at the Trak Racer TCR Cup. We are going to Japan at the legendary Suzuka circuit here in Mie Prefecture. 155,000 capacity here at the FIA Grade 1 circuit, hosting events like the Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix, the FIM EWC, the GT World Challenge Asia, Super GT and Super Formula as well. 61 years of history at this place, and what a way to round out the Oceanic leg of the season. We've had Bathurst last week, now we're at Suzuka. It's the final round of Season 3. The team's title is all stitched up, but we need to find out who will take home the Drivers' Champion trophy today. On your screens, both Lobby 1 and Lobby 2, and for the first time today this season, we've got live chat going on. We're actually completely live on YouTube, so welcome in to everyone who is watching live from their comfy sofas or couches or on your mobile phones. We are very much looking forward to seeing what we're going to have in store for us today with Lobby 1 and Lobby 2. So it's time to crack into it and time to start talking track. Well, back in the commentary box once again, it is myself, George Cooke, and alongside me will be Nick Pautasso and our pit lane reporter in Andrew Scott. Gentlemen, lovely to have you back in here once again for the final round. Now, as I hear it, me and Nick, we are being sensible. We're in the fantastic Suzuka commentary box. It is very kitted out, very technologically awesome over in here. But I hear that the pit lane reporter might be wearing a costume out there and walking around the track with a can of Asahi. Not quite sure if that's allowed here in Japan, but nonetheless, going to be an exciting race for us here in the commentary booth. Nick, lovely to have you back in here. It's round 8. You said last week that the two Oceanic legs rounds are your favorites in the world, Bathurst and Suzuka. You must be excited.
Oh, absolutely. Good evening, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching us here on the live YouTube stream here at MotorMotion E-Series. I'm very excited. It's like, as I said, and it could be controversial, it might equal first best circuits in the world, favorite circuits in the world. That is Mount Panorama. Last time out that we had the Trak Racer TCR Cup and of course Suzuka International. I'm very excited to have these tracks to finish off the Oceanic leg. Thankfully, we're not racing in other circuits of Japan. Would love to have seen Fuji. Obviously, that's another personal favorite of mine. But hey, what the best way to end a season? And we've always seen this in the olden days of Formula One. The Formula One Championship always had its last round at Suzuka, and we saw so many memorable moments back in the Formula One era in the 1980s and in the 1990s as well. So it was great to see some great battling in those days, but now we get to have ourselves a championship fight, and it is going to be for the team. It's going to be the teams, as said by George, has been wrapped up, but it's going to be all about the drivers. So we have Ando Scott joining us from the pit lane. Ando, obviously you're back, you're off, you just jumped off a plane. You haven't taken off your magical costume that you bought in Japan. Where will you be joining us today? Will you be joining us at the pit lane, or have you found a nice little comfy spot amongst the fans tonight?
Yeah, g'day boys, g'day viewers. Yeah, Ando here. I'm just down at the moment at, they've released me out of the pit lane into the crowd again. I'm just down at the grandstand at the moment, looking at turn 1 and turn 2. What a great spot it is to view. Quite a lot of action I think will happen tonight around here, and as they disappear up into the S's. And someone's just taken my coffee out of my hand and handed me an Asahi Lager. So that's the beer of choice down here at the moment. Asahi Breweries, formerly Osaka Breweries, obviously not far away, just down the road from Suzuka here today. So yeah, another tyre cruncher this one today, guys, and strategy is going to be key once again, and with driver's title mathematically on the line for a couple of the guys on the grid, I hear.
Well, that's right. So we do have breaking news for you all today. In Lobby 1, we were going to be having the Street to Track drivers. Unfortunately, neither Jason Oswald or Steph Franson have been able to make it to the grid. So what we thought was a wrapped-up Drivers' Championship at the end of round 7 is now split wide open with Steph Franson, now championship leader, not able to race at Suzuka. This has massive implications, and there are a number of names that now come into contention for getting up there, not just onto the podium, but also into that P1 position in the championship. The likes of Matt Dernedy, Nick Pfaff, Andrew Scott all have a shot at it today, and that is massive. So let's talk more about that in a few moments' time. First of all, let's talk about the race today. Round 8 at Suzuka Circuit. We've got 20 laps to go through today, and the time of the day is early morning. A little bit cloudy out there, unfortunately, so it might be a little bit easier on the tires in some ways. All racing tires are permitted today, but the hard tires are mandatory for this round. Brake bias, as always, adjustable. Suzuka, what even more do we need to say about this place? We've got the turn 1, then into the S's, then through Dunlop, into the Degners. We've got the chicane, spoon, and 130R into the Casio triangle. I can't think of a place that we can talk less about than Suzuka, maybe other than Bathurst, because there are some amazing corners out here. And as Ando said, the key thing today is going to be the tires, because this track is constantly left or right. You're never really in a straight line at all, and some of those corners can really cause a lot of degradation, Nick.
Oh, absolutely. Especially looking at through the snake section in Sector 1. As you're going through that whole place, it's just literally, you're always on the lock of the steering. You're going left, you're going left, you're going right, you're going left. There's a lot of off-banking corners as well. So as we look into the last section of the snake parts, all off camber as well. So it's all about really just trying to nurture those tires as you get to the end of Sector 1, and then even going through Sector 2, the hairpin. There's a very tough, it's probably going to be one of the better opportunities to go for an overtake, I would say, if you get a good run out of Lesmo 2, and also going up towards the Casio triangle. Probably two best overtaking chances. I'm not so sure if the cars will have enough straight line speed to get into the slipstream and go for an ambitious move to either 130R or turns 1 and 2, where we have our pit lane reporter Nando Scott watching all the action in this first part of the race. So it's going to be very single file. It's a driver's circuit. It is a beautiful circuit, and it's one for those that can get that qualifying lap perfect, because it's all about the qualifying. But as we've said many times in this TCR Cup Championship, it's all about how you preserve those tires.
Yep, exactly right. So before we get into Lobby 1, of course we have Lobby 1 and Lobby 2 coverage for you today. We have a few housekeeping items to go through before we get started. First off the rank, of course, is always jump over to www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. Get involved. We've got the Carrera Cup Season 2 coming up soon. Just before our break, we've got a little bit of an advert around that too. So get involved. That is going to be coming up in short order. And we also have the GT3 champs to look forward to. But many articles and news all there on the website. Go and get involved. Jump in on Facebook as well and get into the MotorMotion E-Series paddock. We also have, after Lobby 2's coverage, so right at the end of the stream, we have the glorious admin behind the scenes of the TCR Trak Racer Cup, the visionary himself, Scott Taylor, is going to be joining us in the commentary box for a live interview talking about the seasons past, Season 3, and what's to come in the future. So we are very much looking forward to seeing Scott in the commentary box and giving us a bit of a rundown. He's there trackside. He'll probably go hang out with Andrew Scott. He might have even been the man to hand him an Asahi. So that is a couple of things that we need to go through there. Now it's time to talk about Lobby 1. Lobby 1, we've got a few unfortunate people that are not able to make it today. Obviously, we talked about street to track, so that's 2 drivers down already. Nick, let's go through the qualifying order because the results have just come in for qualifying. Let's run through the grid and talk about who might be there in a position to take the Drivers' Championship this season.
So with no straight to track, no Lewis Atkinson, and no Morgan Davey joining us here at Suzuka Circuit, this is how it all wraps up in Lobby 1 at the end of qualifying. It is Matt Donerty, Hassel 1 Motorsport, and Nick Pfaff, 2 of the key contenders that can take this championship out, but don't count out Ando Scott right behind in P3. If Matt Donerty wants to win, he's already done half of the job. He's got pole position. Now he just needs to go win the race and set the fastest lap if he wants to have any mathematical chance of getting that P1 away from Steph Franson. But that is all in the case if Nick Pfaff finishes 4th or lower. Otherwise, he won't be winning the championship. But Nick Pfaff has to do his absolute best, being that second driver behind Morgan Davey and really being on the back foot, helping his teammate out. He's now got the chance. He's in prime position to run this car to the end of the race, get it inside that top 4, and be crowned potentially the new champion of Season 3 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. But as we said, with the victory from Ando Scott last time out at Suzuka Circuit, and as well as we saw, at Bathurst, and as well as Daytona, those double points really helped him propel that 787 up towards the championship. So he, as well, is a mathematical chance to get inside that, to get that P1. Dean van der Sant in for CP Motorsports after a great performance last time out, or just holding on to P3 at Bathurst in 4th place. Mark Hasseldine, a great result from last time at Mount Panorama. Dave Chucky putting in his best qualifying performance in 6th place. Rob Jacobs, the only Hoon Court driver, in 7th place. Then we have the last remaining cars in Wicked Awesome Racing of Boris Blaznik and Brett Allen. And as we said, 2 of those grids have been not occupied by Street to Track, Lewis Atkinson and Morgan Davey missing out in the race tonight. But gentlemen, this is potentially the race that could see the championship unfold between Matt Donetti, Nick Pfaff and Ando Scott. So chat, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to be able to topple Steph Franson's dominant season that we've had in Season 3. Just missing the last 2 rounds, critical rounds, as reported by George earlier on. But it's all about who can pick up the pieces. Will it be Matt Donetti? Can he go for the clean sweep? Or will it be Nick Pfaff that gets himself inside that top 4? We'll find out in due course. But gentlemen, I can hear the announcers on the speakers, and I think we are ready to go to get this race 1 underway.
We are indeed. The cars are lined up on the grid, so we'll be going to live racing in just a few moments' time. Of course, this is a live broadcast, so if you have any questions or comments you'd like to make in the chat, please do so. Give us a like and subscribe as well on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. Alrighty, well, we've seen the flags being waved, so let's get out there and get this race started. Lobby 1 begins on 3 lights, on 4 lights, on 5 lights. False grid start, as always, here, and we're away. Good launch there from Matt Donetti in the 251 for Hasselone Motorsports. A good start for him. It's what he needs in this race. Nick Pfaff looking like he might be under pressure at some point soon. They have to be single file. We've seen double file earlier on in the Formula 1 series on days past, and it does not go well. So single file, rightly so for all the drivers. Nick Pfaff will be in P2, followed closely by Andrew Scott, followed by Dean van der Sant, then Mark Hasseldine in 5th place, then Dave Chucky holding on to 6th place nicely with Rob Jacobs just behind him, and then the 2 war cars still holding up. That is Andrew Scott, and he's launched it down the inside through the S's. That's rapidly going to become the outside, but he's done it. He's gone right round Nick Pfaff at Dunlop Curve. It's a stunning move to begin for the 787 car, and Andrew Scott goes up into P2. Nick Pfaff now looking at that P4 position behind him. Dean van der Sant going to be putting pressure on through the Dunlop Curve 1 and 2 for the first time in this race. 19 laps to go after this. Just bear that in mind. There's a long way to go in this race, and Matt Donetti is off to a fantastic start. This is what he needs to do. He'll need the fastest lap as well if he's going to get the points that he needs to get up into that top spot of the Drivers' Championship. But this is how you need to start a race to take home a trifecta, that is for sure. Nick Pfaff will be a little bit worried, I think, about the cars behind him potentially being on a faster compound of tyres at the start of this race. If that is the case, then he might be in a little bit of trouble early on, but he'll have to just use his strategy and be clever about it over the course of this race. Otherwise, he might find himself running down the order. That said, he has put a bit of a gap because Dean van der Sant has had a horrible time through Spoon Curve, and that's going to allow Mark Hasseldine to come up the inside and potentially make an overtake in the braking zone into 130R. There is a little bit of braking involved for these cars at 130R, but you can get back on the power relatively quickly. Little touch on the brakes, get it turned in, get over the curb a little bit as well, touch that grass, but just be careful how much you touch. You do not want to get your tyres dirty at this stage of the race. We've got a move for the overtake there. Oh dear, Dave Chucky has put too much tyre onto the grass. He's gone round. A little bit of contact there with Rob Jacobs as well. Mark Hasseldine could not get into the P4 position, and we have Andrew Scott and Nick Pfaff on the hard tyre, both in the pit lane now. That releases Matt Donetti at the front, but that 1 lap hard tyre strategy making a return today. Nick, what an opening lap, mostly single file, a little bit of action at the back. Matt Donetti's lost it.
Oh, you've just caught it on the cameras there. We just see Matt Donetti just run it very wide, and also Dean van der Sant on the background there. He drops from P3 down to P5. This is going to work in absolute favours for Ando Scott and Nick Pfaff that have just come into the pit lane. Yes, those soft tyres will be warming up, but pretty quickly, it only takes a few corners. So thanks to the cloudy conditions, the soft tyres will actually be a little bit more durable than the hard tyres. In a way, you can actually save them for an extra lap or two. But it's a great start for Matt Donetti, minus that turn 1, turn 2, running wide on the first corner, on the first banking. Just puts the car on the gravel trap, not on the gravel trap, on the exit curb. Thankfully, no rotation, no full 360 rotation on his car, but he's done very well there. Boris Blasnik moves up to P4 after starting P8, so very nicely done there by the Wicked Awesome Racing team. And we also have to give a bit of a shout out as well to Soulslayer 71, down in 7th place. I know not many people know about this, but it is actually Soulslayer's 300th racing appearance in the sim racing world of online esports. So he's doing his 300th race here at Suzuka Circuit, and he's actually going to be retiring at the end of the season. He's actually going to be taking a break away from sim racing. So 300 races, what a way to spend it here at MotorMotion E-Series at the beautiful Suzuka Circuit. And it's a huge accomplishment to notch up 300. I mean, even for myself, I don't know if I keep count of how many races I've done. I'll probably have to go back through all the years of how many races I've done. But he's done well. He's running in 7th. Ando Scott and Nick Pfaff running down in 8th and 9th place, but the first of the pit stoppers. But look at where they are compared to everybody else. They are on that back stretch going towards 130R. Nick Pfaff is staying with Ando Scott. Matt Donetti comes into the pit lane right now. He was on hards as well, so I actually thought he was on softs. So that's going to be a crucial mistake there, because he did dip a tire on the exit of turn 1 and 2. That's cost him a lot of time, and that'll definitely put him back into the back behind Ando Scott and potentially Nick Pfaff.
Yeah, too right. That is potentially a race winning mistake there. It might hand the victory over to Andrew Scott, who is ahead of Nick Pfaff. We'll have a look at where they end up coming out, and they've come out ahead of Matt Donetti. Only just. They'll have the overspeed. And yeah, through goes Andrew Scott. Will Nick Pfaff get him as well? He will indeed. So that is 1st to 3rd place for Matt Donetti, and that is going to be Andrew Scott up into the lead of this race. This 3-pack, all starting on the hard tyres, doing 1 lap apiece for Andrew and Nick, and 2 laps, unfortunately, for Matt Donetti, which has cost him a whole bunch. Dean van der Zandt has come into the pits as well. Is a substantial distance behind the others, though, at this stage. So that means Mark Hasseldine is currently in the lead of this race. But let's throw it down to our pit lane reporter, Andrew Scott. He's been keeping an eye on the pit stops that have come early on. Is the strategy, of course, being 1 lap on the hard tyres, then throw them out of the window?
Yeah, the hard tyre, very difficult to get sort of turned on in these cloudy, cooler conditions. And so the Mikuka supercomputer said to, just get rid of them early. But the crucial thing is now for the 2 leaders in net 6th and 7th, but they're effectively leaders of the race. They're going to have to do a 10-lap stint on their soft. So they're really going to have to look after their front tyres. And Suzuka being a figure-8 circuit, it's both front tyres that will absolutely cop a hammering around here. So Matt Donetti in 3rd place, he's in the slipstream, he's in the pack. He only has to do 2 lots of 9 laps, so he could be still relevant here.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye, a very close eye, in fact, on that, because these 3 running together, this is potentially the race for the Drivers' Championship this season. Critical for Nick Pfaff to finish up in the top 4. Well, he's got that at the moment, and looks like he's on the right strategy. But yeah, taking 10 laps of softs is going to be tricky, especially with the faster running Matt Donetti just behind. Got qualifying pole, of course, in Lobby 1. And Nick Pfaff setting Sector 2 purples, Sector 3 purples already. Actually, that is Sector 2. Sector 2 purples already. So they're going as fast as they possibly can. The question is going to be tyre degradation, Nick. It's going to be absolutely key for Matt Donetti to use those tyres to maximum effect. So he needs to be ahead of Nick Pfaff as soon as possible.
Oh, absolutely. I was running in the MotorMotion E-Series, provided Mazda 3 around this track, and I can tell you from experience, the tyres are literally screaming at you every single corner. So it's very tricky for these guys on how they are going to manage these tyres for 10 laps, as what Ando Scott reported, and as well even for Matt Donetti running 9 laps. So he's got the upper hand. He's got a little bit of an advantage running an extra lap there. But I think that definitely that mistake into turn 1 and turn 2, that's why he's down the pack there, ladies and gentlemen. Probably the undercut is very strong around this track, don't get me wrong, but it's just that mistake that he made in those first couple of corners that cost him about at least 3-4 seconds, when he had at least a 1.5 second gap over Ando Scott before he came into the pit lane. So that's been very crucial, a crucial point of this race. It could be a crucial point in this championship if Matt Donetti can not get himself back up to the front. But Nick Pfaff's holding his own. He's running very nicely. They're both setting fastest laps there on lap 3, 2:10 flat for Ando Scott, and Nick Pfaff set himself a 2:10 as well. So, and then we're going to have Matt Donetti start getting his lap in. But coming through to the hairpin, you can see the pack is really close. Matt Donetti, it did show the hazard lights there, so I think he wants to work with Nick Pfaff just for a little bit. I think he just wants to give him a little bit of a push, maybe try and get him close towards Ando Scott, towards the 787, and just try and work together to see if they can get themselves in a different strategy. And it's a little bit weird because it's a bit of inter-team, you know, friendship at the moment. But when it comes to that last lap, lap 20 of 20, if these two are fighting for a championship, it's hammer to the floor and go for it.
Yeah, gloves are going to be coming off. That is absolutely for sure. This is one man that we're on board with his rear wing, Andrew Scott. You do not want to let this man get away and still let him save tyres, because once that does happen, it tends to disappear down the road. That gap is sort of hovering just underneath the 1 second mark. So Nick Pfaff still got a whisper of slipstream at his disposal right now, but he's going to have to make sure he nails the last Casio triangle chicane here, get through that nicely. Does he get a good exit? Yeah, it's a reasonable exit. Matt Donetti, not so much, but he'll have a decent slipstream. I think Andrew Scott might just be getting out of distance here. That's a 2:09 flat. That's a great lap from Andrew Scott. I don't think it's been matched by those behind. No, 2/10 down.
Yeah, but I think he's just going for the fastest lap to try and break away from these guys, because he knows that if he can just break away a little bit, get himself a good buffer, then he can slow the rate, then he can slow the car down and then run his own race. So that'll be all on Nick Pfaff and Matt Donetti to try and match. So 2:09.2, not too bad, still pretty quick. And then, but we look down the order. Dean Vandersen is the first man into the 2:08, so 2:08.8, but he's a fair distance back behind Ando Scott and that battle pack. As we see Mark Hasseldine run wide through deck the 1, that gives him sets him nearly into the gravel trap into deck the 2, but thankfully he saved the car from a total disaster running into the tyre barrier. So great save by the Hassel 1 Motorsport Car 16 driver. That means that promotes Dave Chucky up into P1, Boris Blaznik in P2. I don't think I've ever seen Dave Chucky lead a race here at Season 3 of the MotorMotion TCR Championship, but that's one for the history books, and that's one for the records. Dave Chucky leading on lap 5 of 20.
Yeah, you know, even if you know you may not be in the overall lead of the race based on strategy, you still take home the fact that you have led some laps in this race, so that will go against his statistics for the season. First time we've seen Dave Chucky be up here really in the top 5, so he's having a good race at the moment. Only 9 on the grid due to the DNSs that we've got around the grid today, but he's done well in qualifying. He's done well at the beginning of this race to get ahead of Mark Hasseldine, who did make that mistake admittedly. I think Dave Chucky was already ahead though, so that was him and Boris Blaznik able to get on through from Mark Hasseldine. Then Rob Jacobs in P4, then Brett Allen in P5, and look at where the front pack, well, technically the pack from 5 down, but technically the front pack here, Andrew Scott right on the rear wing now of Brett Allen. They'll have to navigate him as soon as possible. Don't want to be losing time behind the 555 car at this point. And look at the difference in tyres there. I'm not quite sure what the strategy was there. Nearly got punted into the barrier between the road and the pit lane. That's not comfortable for Brett Allen there.
It is not comfy. It's probably one of the most awkward entries. We thought Watkins was bad. You could say Suzuka is, because if you're right in that slipstream, right underneath that rear wing, that car is turning right. You want to follow that car because you want to take advantage of the slipstream. But sometimes drivers just do get a little bit of, you know, they have that little bit of race instinct inside their heads, and they just want to take advantage of a slipstream, but then they forget they're going into the pit lane, so it's that extra punt that they get. But as I've just noticed as well, we are missing. I did not read it in the early stages, but we are missing Mick Hill. So actually, from running the grid order, we are missing the second entry of the Me Cougar Driver Development. So I do apologise. I missed out on car number 3, Mick Hill, who was actually also as well in contention of possibly getting this championship as well. But obviously, we heard through the latest developments that from last time out at Bathurst, he was unwell. He did find himself in the hospital, so we hope he gets well sooner rather than later, and hopefully he can join the party bus. I'm pretty sure they've already joined the party bus down at Bathurst. But with Ando Scott joining us on the grid, joining us on the track side, where are you this time, my friend? Obviously, you've seen everyone slowly starting to come in. Some drivers are still staying out on the hard tyres. So what do you think the strategy means for drivers if they're staying out on these harder compounds for a lot longer?
just before we go down, we've got Matt Dernedy. He's made a move on Nick Pfaff and will go up into technical P2 in this race, and let's go down to Andrew Scott now.
Yeah, I'm just down at Dunlop, guys, making my way towards the Degners, and the cars are really getting through here nicely. But yeah, there is a mixture of tyres. The guys that are still at the front and haven't pitted yet, some of them are running the mediums, so they might be looking at a one-stopper. They'll want to go long on the mediums, do at least 11 laps on the mediums and finish off on the hards. But the fast guys down the order are definitely on two-stoppers. They're running on softs now to the end of the race.
We did see someone going for a long, hard stint, and that was Brett Allen. Is there something to that strategy at all? I wouldn't imagine so, because the hard tyre is just not going to be quick enough at a circuit like this with the alternative soft and medium options.
Yeah, the tyre delta's horrific. It's over 2.5 seconds a lap. The hards are slower. So the pit stop here is around that 19-20 second mark, I think. So definitely not optimal. But if you can't really look after the softs for at least 9 or 10 laps, then that's your only option really, to go for a one-stopper. And whether you run softs or mediums as the option tyre is up to the individual.
Yeah, but you look at the end of where they're coming up towards you now, towards Dunlop Curve. We can see Boris Blaznik is already coming up to the Degners. Then you can look down in 5th place. Ando Scott there, 787, has just gone past the Dunlops, and he's about to approach Degner 1 and Degner 2. So they're actually really close to the front pack. So he's actually made a move now on Rob Jacobs up into P4. Matt Donetti right behind is about to make a move on the Hooncorp driver, the only Hooncorp driver on the grid, joining us in lobby 1 as he goes for the inside move into the hairpin. Rob Jacobs is just not able to fight that. The 744 just waves the white flag, gives Matt Donetti the spot, and potentially is going to be giving Nick Pfaff the spot sooner than later. But yeah, you can see they're actually really closing up on the driver in P1. So, yes, everyone looks like they're running on medium tyres. They want to run that one-stop strategy, but the two-stopper so far looks to be working very well for the likes of Ando Scott, Matt Donetti, and Nick Pfaff if they're closing up really quickly.
Yep, too right. It'll be interesting to see how these strategies do end up evolving, but we can see the pace that's happening on the soft tyre right now. I mean, with Dean van der Zart's 2:08.8 and the rest of the front pack doing low 2:09s at the moment. That's at least a 2 or 3 second difference between those on either the medium or hard tyres. We think Rob Jacobs is on a medium tyre, possibly a hard given those lap times at the moment. We shall see. It's not come of anything, unfortunately, for Rob Jacobs, so he'll have to just accept the fact that the lead pack has come on through for now. Matt Dernedy is still making his charge after Ando. Set a 2:09.4 last lap. This was a 2:09.7. Andrew up in the 2:09.9s. So they're in that part of the soft tyre life where it starts to fall off a little bit of a cliff. Not quite able to set those times that they had done a few laps ago. About a second difference is what we're approximately seeing between the times they had done. But it's all about looking after them at this stage. You can get a couple of fast laps out of the softs and feel good about it, but then you really have to focus on tyre preservation and making sure that the rubber stays intact for the remaining 8 or 9 laps.
Well, here's the dilemma here that we have at the moment. Mark Hasseldine, P3, Matt Donetti, P5. Who's in the middle of that? Ando Scott. So what does Mark Hasseldine do? What is he going to be thinking about? Is he going to be playing a little bit of a team game like we saw with Sergio Perez back in 2021, defending Lewis Hamilton to help Max Verstappen seal a championship in 2021 on the final lap of what was an epic finale? Well, we see something similar. Maybe not to that extent, but maybe Mark might be able to help his teammate out just a little bit, maybe slow him down through these slower corners, especially through the hairpin. See what he's doing there. He's running the defensive line. He needs to make Ando work for it, and we can see Matt Donetti slowly closing up there, but with the grip that Ando Scott's got on the car, he's able to get so much traction down pretty quickly. Mark Hasseldine running defensive. He was about to go on the defensive side going through Spoon Curve. Ando needs to get the move done. He sneaks the nose in. Does he go for the inside? No, he doesn't. It kind of pushes wide. Oh, he nearly loops it on Ando Scott there. So had no way to control that. And unfortunately, that does not help him keep that position ahead of Ando Scott. But what it has done, it has released Matt Donetti. He's got himself a good run. You can see the flash of the hazards. Thank you very much. Mark Hasseldine saying, no worries, go for it, son. And, a little bit of teamwork there kind of helped him close the gap towards Ando Scott there. So very good work there by Mark Hasseldine.
Yep, that's exactly it. And teamwork is a big part of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. We saw that especially at Daytona, where there was bump drafting and all sorts of team tactics being employed. No surprise to see that once again here, especially in such a critical scenario with the Drivers' Championship on the line. Andrew Scott's going to be making his way past Dave Chucky in short order. And I was going to say, yes, he might be able to do something, but probably not for too long. Andrew Scott on a soft tyre and eager for a win is going to be a quick contender. But this traffic, Dave Chucky is putting up a little bit of a barrier here that's going to slow down Ando even more. So they've got to come through yet another car.
Whoa.
And that's all. It's an attempted move. Has it worked out? The camera is not pointing in the right direction.
Oh,
Matt
Dernedy!
he's gone on through. Andrew Scott got stuck behind Dave Chucky, who was laying it on the apex. And the third person in this battle came out on top. Matt Dernedy in the overall lead once again.
Wow, that is like Moses just opening up the heavens, the heavens in the ocean, be like, I'll come through, thank you very much. I'll take a 2-for-1 bargain there. That was a brilliant move there by Matt Dernedy. That just shows his racecraft that he's developing here in the Trak Racer TCR Cup. He's a very smart driver. Obviously, he had self-doubts about that move that he made on Ando Scott at the Daytona Enduro with 2 laps to go. He made the move way too early. That cost him the chance of taking victory in Daytona. But what a way to be patient, wait for a sequence of events to occur. Dave Chucky was running on very old tires. We saw on the previous lap he actually ran wide on Spoon Curve. We saw a little bit of smoke coming off the the front tires of his car, and yeah, we knew he was struggling big time. But what a move by Matt Dernedy. That's the move of the race there. Great work there by the Hassel 1 driver.
Yep, huge move. So let's throw it down to our pit lane reporter for an update on everyone around the grid, because this lead pack is now approaching Boris Blazenik, who's going to be the last person for them to get by. What strategies are we seeing evolve? Who's got the best tyres out of the top pack? Andrew Scott.
Yeah, Blazenik is just coming up to the Casio complex now, and he's fully red on his front right. So I'd say he's coming in right now. In he goes. And Matt Dernedy not looking great on his fronts, actually. He made that glorious little sexy move there to inherit the lead of the race now as he crosses the start-finish line. But he pitted a lap after Ando, but his tyres are actually worse for wear. And he might be in trouble to get the required at least 9 laps out of this set. So it'll be interesting to see. Faf is looking good on his softs, but he unfortunately has been held up a little bit by traffic, although he's cleared it just now through turn 2. So he's still remaining relevant. And Dave Chucky's actually chosen to go long on the mediums, interestingly. They are very, very worn, and he's doing 2-minute 12s and 13s. So it doesn't look like the mediums were a great choice of tyre this race. And Rob Jacobs down there in 5th, he's going long on the hards. His hards are looking absolutely fine, but his lap times aren't. And Dean van der Zandt is on the softs. He's gone long as well, and he'll be in this lap, but his softs look to have lasted him nicely. And then Blazenik is on fresh hards, Soul Slayer's on relatively fresh mediums, and Hasseldean's just pitted. He's done his one and only pit stop for the race, and he's just come out on fresh hards too.
There we go. Okay, so an interesting mix-up of strategies all along the grid. We've got a few in chat as well saying hello. So hello and welcome to our live chatters today. You get to talk directly to the commentary box. All technology has been set up correctly today for that to be enabled, which is fantastic. Interesting there about the hard runners. Rob Jacobs trying to go long. Skippy, that's Dave Chucky, trying to go long on the medium tyre. But whether it'll work out for them or not, we will see. I mean, given those time deltas, it seems like the mediums just seem like a little bit of pointless. That's kind of what I sense at the moment. Boris Blazenik might only be doing 1 lap on these hards just to get on them and then get straight off them. Nick, what do we think?
Yeah, well, if you look at where Rob Jacobs is at the moment, he's down in 5th place, Dave van der Zandt 6th place. If he can actually run those hard tyres for at least another couple more laps, all he'll need to do is just obviously 1 stint on the soft tyres, but he'll actually keep track positions. We have Matt Dernedy surprised in the pit lane. Yeah,
Ooh.
so he's only done 8 laps on those soft tyres, so he's going to try and go for a 10-lap stint. So what Ando Scott and Nick Pfaff are doing, they're running 10 laps on those soft tyres, but he's just said, you know what, I'm going to pull the pin. 29% of fuel compared to Dave Chucky's 10%, so you can see how much fuel saving he's done in the Hassel 1 Motorsport, but that is an early call for someone that actually came into the pit lane later than the two front runners.
Yeah, let's see.
He might be trying to break the slip with an undercut, so he comes out after Ando pits again. Matt Dernedy might be released, and he might be out of the slipstream, and he might be able to break away. But then he's going to have a bit of trouble at the end of the race, getting 10 laps out of a set of softs.
Yeah, he's leaving the pit lane right now. He's coming up towards the first corner, so he's got clear air. So that's the most important thing for Matt Dernedy. He's got clear track, he's got clear air, no one behind him. He can just run his own race, try and push for an undercut on Ando Scott and Nick Pfaff, and try and take back the P1 that he so deserves for after taking pole position and running the first few laps in the lead of this race. As we see a nice move there by Boris Blasnik on Dean Vandersen, but Dean Vandersen just let that pass go through. He didn't want to fight it too much. But this is what I'm trying to think about, going back to Rob Jacobs and Dean Vandersen. Dean's already made a pit stop. Rob Jacobs hasn't. They're both probably running the same fuel numbers. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Ando Scott, between the fuels on Rob and Matt. Both of them need to come into the pit lane. So I think this is actually going to benefit Jacobs in the end of it, because he's already done his hards. He's going to throw on softs. Same with Dean Vandersen. It's going to be equal pegging between those two drivers.
Yeah, Vandersen's got a little bit better fuel state, but I'm not sure. Has Vandersen run the hards yet, or is he going to have to jump on the hards?
He ran hards on the first stint. I think he came in
That's right,
lap
he did.
two,
He did.
a lap two
Yep.
with Donetti.
So they're both going to be running softs to the end. They'll probably pit this lap, I'd say, but Jacobs will lose a little bit of time to Vandersen in the pit, in the refueling though.
Yeah, too true. As we see, both the front runners now 21 and 22%, so that'll be crucial. We saw Matt Donetti, sorry, on 29%, so probably losing about 7-8% per lap around Suzuka Circuit. So it's pretty much even numbers there. We'll wait and see what happens to Boris Blasnik. Has only done his couple of laps on the hard tyres. He's run and done. Jacob still stays out for another lap. Dean Vandersen has come into the pit lanes. He's actually saved more fuel, like you called, on his Mazda 3. So he's done very well. But Rob Jacobs is now leading the race on lap 12 of 20, the only driver that hasn't made a pit stop. So it could be an interesting strategy. So watch out, ladies and gentlemen, of what Rob Jacobs can do if he can get ahead of Dean Vandersen. There goes Donetti. There leaves Ando Scott on lap 12 of 20. We're going to see ourselves another grandstand finish. He's got that undercut working to perfection, Matt Donetti. What does he do now? Does he really play conservative, or does he go for the full charge? Does he go 9 laps of full send before his tyres run out and Ando comes back and says, I'm coming for you, with only 2 laps to go?
Oh, we have an exciting battle on our hands. Just remember, Nick Pfaff needs to finish in the top 4. Matt Dernedy needs to finish first and take fastest lap. That currently sits with Dean van der Zandt, and what a dilemma for Matt Dernedy. Gonna have to find a way to set a fastest lap and also save tyres in this stint.
He's going to do it now.
And he needs to do it now, because those tyres are not going to last forever at the end of the day. So, you know, Andrew Scott, all he has to do now is just catch up. All we have to do, just have to catch up to Matt Dernedy. He's been showing incredible pace this season. He's been a fantastic part of the season, so it's fantastic to see him putting in a challenge here to one of the best drivers in the championship, in Andrew Scott. But we'll see. Nick Pfaff in 3rd place at the moment. I think he's really in for a shot as it stands right now. Rob Jacobs will be giving up the lead of this race in short order. It's a pretty decent gap between Andrew and Matt Dernedy, though, so Andrew's got a lot of work to do in this stint.
He can
That undercut worked, didn't it,
Yeah.
boys?
Absolutely, it was a huge undercut.
got him free of the slip, yeah.
But
That's
the thing
it.
is, he can still see Matt Donetti just in his sights there, so he's just about to approach 130R. He can just see the little glimpse of the car there as it passes through 130R at flying pace there. Little dab of the brakes and just try and cut the corner on the left-hand side, so that way you don't run too wide on the exit. And then coming up to this awesome section of the Casio Triangle, just throw the car over the curves. Hopefully it doesn't offset the car, and you just put the traction down and get the power down as early as you can. And there we go, Matt Donetti has set the fastest lap at 2 minute 8.6. That's that extra point going to Matt Donetti. Now it's time to pull back. Donetti, you need to slow. Well, I don't want to say slow the car down, but in the words of wisdom of Ando Scott, save your tyres. You've got only 8 laps to go until the end of this race.
Yeah, it is now that stage of his stint where he is going to have to save the tyres and use the gap that he's got behind him. He'll have to strategically bleed off the time between him and Andrew Scott, hopefully to the point where he can't overtake but still retains the lead of this race. That's going to be the most important thing for Matt Dernedy to focus on now. We shall see how he goes. We just saw, I believe, Brett Allen come in on his medium, so he's gone in for his final pit stop of the race. Then, of course, we've got Nick Pfaff sitting down there in P4 currently. That'll be P3 in short order when Rob Jacobs does come into the pits. Then we've got Mark Hasseldine in P5, Dean van der Zaan right behind him. So this is a nice little battle evolving. Nick, you talked about this earlier on, that these two were going to be fighting for what is going to be in the top 5 position. Well, that battle has rapidly evolved, and looks like Dean van der Zaan, having held the fastest lap for the first half of this race, is looking a lot faster than Mark Hasseldine at the moment, who's really struggled through Degner 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is not the battle. Yeah, but this is not the battle pack we're looking for. We're waiting for Rob Jacobs to come through to make his pit stop. Oh, just nearly runs into the back end of Dean van der Zaan. So Mark Hasseltine's been really struggling on the brakes as of late. He struggled, obviously pulling the car up there into the hairpin, but he also struggled pulling the car up at Spoon Curve, where he almost took out Andrew Scott. And obviously that helped his teammate out in Mark Dernedy to come through, or to have a little bit of a slipstream advantage on this back stretch here, but he almost took him out. So struggling on the brakes a little bit, Mark Hasseldine. So maybe not, the car hasn't been tuned to his liking, and he's just really struggling to slow the car down to get into the corners properly, or when he's going side by side with somebody.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's obviously on an offset strategy from what Dean van der Zaan is doing at the moment, so the overtake was rather inevitable there.
Oh, Andrew's got the fastest lap. He's set a 208.232, so he's taken that point away from Matt Dernedy. He's like, I'm not going to give you that, son. You know, I'm gonna have a little sniff of a chance of getting the Drivers' Championship. There's a very little sniff that I can get, and he's going to try and push for it. But it's a 208.232. He's closing the gap, but the gap you can see on the mini-map there is still relatively large. There's about 7 laps to go till the end of this race. He's going to try and see if he can close it down. 208.4 was actually Matt Dernedy's next lap, so he's going quicker. He just set a PB in that first sector, so it's all about just trying to find those little bits of traction that you can get from these cars, save the tires, then apply the traction a little bit more, and then push it, and then back it off, push it, back it off. I think the only words for Matt Dernedy is just push, push, push for the victory.
Yeah, he's going to, but I mean, you know, tyre life is going to become a real issue for him on the final lap, so he might find himself without a fastest lap or a race win. But that is a fantastic lap from Andrew Scott, really putting the foot down. He's got an extra lap, essentially, in the tyres that he can use to his advantage, so that's going to work out well for him. Rob Jacobs going to be rapidly overtaken here by Matt Dernedy in a few moments' time. Still quite a big delta between these two. I get the feeling that Andrew Scott might have needed... maybe never. He's just rapidly just staying out there. He's just
running. He's happy. Yeah, he's happy.
He's cruising.
I tell you what, though, I think it's going to cost him, because he's doing 2-minute 14s. You know, and I think he's going to come out behind Dean van der Zaan. You know, when all is said and done with the pit stops, I don't think this 14 lap on the hard strategy is really working for him.
I thought he would have pitted the next lap from when Dean van der Zaan pitted. So I actually thought he would have pitted like lap 11, lap 12. But now he comes into the pit lane finally. 5% fuel, hard tyres off that car. Thank you very much. Give me the freshest of soft tyres you have. 208.
Andrew Scott just goes and takes it further away from
Someone wants to win, I think.
It does seem like someone might be quite eager to... He's got purple on the car. He's got purple on the brain at the moment.
Hasn't he?
It has indeed. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Andrew Scott, you needed to have the pole position as well to have a shot at the Drivers' Championship. But fastest lap in the race win. There.
I wasn't actually in contention, guys. I missed too many rounds. So it was Mick Hill, my teammate, that was going to possibly be able to win it. He's in the same boat as Matt Dernedy. He also needed the clean sweep to have a mathematical chance. So obviously he's still recuperating in Bathurst Base Hospital. The Me Cougar party bus is waiting for him, but he unfortunately couldn't race this race due to illness. So it's Matt Dernedy and Nick Pfaff that are the ones that could take it tonight.
Yeah, too right. I think the end standings will still be relatively close. We'll keep an eye on that as we head towards the end of this round. This is critical. This is the critical lobby right here. Matt Dernedy needs the fastest lap and the race win. Nick Pfaff needs to finish in the top 4. Both of them looking on form for it, but I just am a bit worried now about where Matt Dernedy's tyres are at and whether he can pull out what needs to essentially be a 207 at Suzuka in the Mazda 3 Group 4 cars. That, with the current condition of his tyres, I think might be a tall order, but he's going to give it a shot.
I tell you what, they did 207s in quali too. So Matt and Pfaff are capable because that's what they laid down in quali, and Ando did not. He was not capable of a 207, I can guarantee you that. Didn't quite manage one.
Absolutely crazy. And then just going back onto the Rob Jacobs story, he's down in P7, Dean Van der Zandt P4. So definitely the strategy has not worked for Rob Jacobs on this side, unfortunately. He probably should have pitted a few laps earlier, so he actually would have had a battle for P4, P5 in this race. But yeah, unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for the Hooncorp driver. It hasn't really been the season for Hooncorp Esports. We did see Lewis Ackerson take a famous victory at a very wet and soggy Nürburgring enduro race. Took that away from Luke Stone from Lightning Motorsport, but it just hasn't been the best season. It hasn't been a very strong season for Hooncorp. They really struggle to get these cars running. Like, I guess in a way, not just running, but in a way that they just can't understand the car's characteristics, with the front tires wearing out so much, running mediums instead of soft tires, where you have the option to run softs, but they run mediums. It's been a little bit of an up and down season for Hooncorp Esports, so they're not really the best. They're not very strong when it comes to the TCR Championship, but obviously when you see them everywhere else, as he makes a nice sweeping move on Mark Hasseltine on the hard tires, Rob Jacobs on fresh set of soft tires, sails past into P6, but it's just been a bit of a weird season for Hooncorp. So not their best. We have not seen them at the best, but what we do know is that when it comes to Group 3 racing and Porsche Cup racing, defending teams champions, defending drivers champions, anything can happen in Season 2.
You're right. 208.4, last lap from Andrew Scott there. Matt Dernedy at 209.3. Those tyres are starting to really struggle here on lap 16. That means we've got 3 more laps after this one. That is quite the distance for Matt Dernedy to go, and Andrew Scott has closed up the distance really, really nicely and rather quickly, and that will be a rather bit of worry for the Hassel 1 driver as he sees the Mi Cougar car looming in the distance. This is going to be a real battle for the lead of this race. At the moment, I think we can all say that Andrew Scott's tyres are going to be in better shape than Matt Dernedy, who's been going for fastest lap after fastest lap, but he's trying to save now. He's trying to get these tyres to the end of the race because they're not looking in great condition right now, unfortunately for him.
Well, he's done a 209.3 on the previous lap compared to his fastest of 208.4, so nearly a second off the delta. So as we see him come towards the start-finish line, it'll probably be another 209, 1.2. So we've got a 209, and Ando still in the 2-minute 8.5. The consistency, we know the man to be a very consistent driver when it comes to tyre wear. He's got the best of the lot. Probably, I would say, even better pace, better shape than Rob Jacobs in a way, as a bit of a laugh. He's got some good consistency on his car, but Ando Scott, 208s versus a 209.5, a second difference between the two drivers. 4 laps to go. I wouldn't leave your TV screens anytime soon. We'll be seeing this move done probably within this lap, maybe within the end of the lap, probably at the start of the next lap, because here comes the Mi Cougar 787.
Indeed. So, quick update on the driver's standing. Steph Ranson, unfortunately, couldn't join us for the last 2 rounds. He's on 439 points locked in at this stage, and that does mean, technically speaking, Andrew Scott not able to get enough points in this round, regardless of what happens. That is confirmed now. So Nick Pfaff and Matt Dernedy are the only 2 drivers at the moment on the grid that are going to be able to make a challenge for Steph Ranson's 439 points. That is the mark that they need to meet. Matt Dernedy's got to hold on to this top spot. It's absolutely critical that he does so. Otherwise, Nick Pfaff is going to be the man to do it, and he doesn't even need to win a race this entire season. As I understand it, and I think I'm correct in saying this, Nick Pfaff is potentially in to win the Drivers' Championship without winning a single race this season.
Well, we saw Russell Ingall do it in 2005 in the V8 Supercars Championship, so why can't it happen to Nick Pfaff? Running P3, running some clean races, helping his teammate out in Morgan Davey, playing the the defense minister of Astro Racing could potentially be finally getting himself his first MotorMotion E-Series Trak Racer TCR Championship, but we're not the end yet. Anything could happen in the late stages.
Oh, big send from Andrew.
Sends it into the Casio triangle, but runs it too deep there. Very, very, very tough there to pull it up. Obviously on worn tires, a little bit too much, too eager there on Casio, and that just runs him wide. And look at him, he's just pulled away. 3 laps to go. That is a huge mistake, costly by Ando Scott. I don't know if we're going to be able to catch that back up. Obviously, he's going to have better tyres than Matt Donetti, but 3 laps to go. He needs to be patient. We've never seen Ando be so impatient before. We saw Matt Donetti be very impatient at Daytona. I think Ando's kind of cracked a little bit on lap 17 there, so maybe a little bit of shades of what we saw at Daytona, but roles reversed.
Yeah, the curse of P2. Always over-eager, and it just goes a little bit past the threshold of what the car is capable of. I think everyone in P2 at some stage or another has made a move similar to that and then not got it done. That, of course, will increase the gap massively. So Matt Donetti, on the 18th lap with 3 laps to go, he has got a little bit more of a gap now. A bit of breathing room for Matt Donetti and Hassel 1 Motorsports, and that will give him some relief. But those tyres are going to continue to degrade. The question is, how good are Ando's tyres, and can he put in fast enough laps to catch up? Last lap there was still hovering around the high 209s, and if Ando Scott is able to do 208.5s, that's still nearly a second of difference there in lap times. So that gap's probably somewhere around 5 seconds at the moment. A lot of room for Matt Donetti, and he's just got to bring it home now.
Yeah, well, he's just set himself up. He was 1.8 fast, 1.8 seconds slower through sector 2. So obviously, with that mistake at Casio, obviously put him on the back foot on lap 18 of 20. So in theory, the next lap 19, will probably be a little bit more relative to what the pace is like between Matt Donetti and Ando Scott. But like I said, don't leave your couches, don't leave the couch, or don't leave your bed just yet, because this is going to be an exciting finish, because Ando Scott still probably has better tyre wear, better tyres than Matt Donetti. We might get a report, one last report from Ando Scott about the tyres, at least for the top 3, or maybe the top 2 mainly. What is the tyre situation like after what happened to the 787 running deep at Casio Triangle, Ando?
Okay, well, as the red mist descends over Ando and he is driving the wheels off that car to catch back up now, I can report. What was he thinking, guys? What sort of a move was that? That was very amateurish.
We don't know.
So he's now got, less than 2 laps to go now, and he's 2.5 seconds behind or more, but his tyres are looking fine, and he's good on fuel. So this is the update, guys. Donetti's also got a fuel problem. He's been managing fuel to the end now. Although Ando, in the space of a lap, with the red mist descending, has actually burnt most of that fuel advantage. So they are now level on fuel. But yeah, Matt Donetti definitely got a tyre issue, guys. He's nursing those tyres and leaking oil already. And so this isn't over yet. Nick Pfaff's sitting there pretty. His tyres are fine. He's all on his lonesome in 3rd place there. So he could be the incumbent champion here, guys. He could be the one we're looking at.
There we go. We will keep a very close eye on the Drivers' Championship, and the standings will be calculated after Lobby 2. We'll have the results for you by the end of the stream.
I'm definitely getting some Daytona flashbacks here. I don't know about you, George, but we're going to have a Daytona flashback here. We've got 1.5 laps to go. The fight for P1, Matt Donetti versus Ando Scott. Ando's really caught up to the back end, but thanks to our reporter, our pit lane reporter on Ando Scott there, giving us the crunching numbers and the crucial data that we need. He is running on fumes, is the 251, and for the Hassel 1 Motorsports. Already taken a victory last time out at Mount Panorama. Can he do the clean sweep here and the Oceanic leg and get that victory here at Suzuka? He's already got pole position. He couldn't get the fastest lap, but he can potentially get the big points and take the victory here tonight. He might not be in contention. If Nick Pfaff stays inside that top 3, inside that top 4, he could be crowned championship. It could be crowned champion at the end of it, but something needs to happen on his end. He's got a huge gap over Dean van der Zandt and Boris Oceanic. So all Nick Pfaff has to do, I'm sure what Dylan Scarborough, his team boss, is telling him to do, just bring the car home, sunshine. Just bring it home and let's get that championship. But here comes Ando Scott. He's got the fresh compound of tyres, the fresher tyres, as we go on board with the Cooke driver right in the slipstream there. The car in front is really slow, so a little bit of fuel conservation on this final lap, lap 20 of 20 for the last time in the Trak Racer TCR Cup. Going into turn 1, throws the nose inside turn 1. They're going to go side by side, gives each other some racing room and gets the move done on the exit of turn 2. Andrew Scott now takes the lead after what was an ambitious move at Casio Triangle 2 laps ago. Now leads the race on the final lap here for season 3 of round 8 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. What a move, what a battle, but Matt Donerty is struggling, George.
Oh, those tyres are gone, and we've been hearing that from the Hassel 1 garage. We've had the drivers talking to us. The tyres are gone. You can see the gap already evolving massively, and I don't think Andrew's tyres are necessarily in the best shape either. But you can see how much struggle town is happening for Matt Donerty right now, and what a shame that is. On for the victory here today and potentially taking home the Drivers' Championship, but that seems to have come to an end on the first corner of the final lap of the final round of the season, and what a shame for Matt Donerty. It does indeed hurt, but Matt Donerty is going to have to be very, very proud of the performance he's put in this season. He's come in with Hassel 1 Motorsports. He's kept them in the championship fight all season long. He's kept things entertaining for us here in the commentary box all season long. He's shown that he can drive amongst the best of the TCR Trak Racer Cup, and that is something to be incredibly proud of for Matt Donerty. But it is lap 20 of lap 20 for Lobby 1. Bear in mind, we've got Lobby 2 action coming up for your viewing pleasure as well, so stay tuned. But Andrew Scott on for a victory here. It'll be one of many. Through the season, Cooke have already taken the team's title out, so this is for pride and honor as much as anything at the moment for Andrew Scott. He will be our victor today. Matt will be in P2 as it stands right now, and then Nick Pfaff in P3, and we think that this is going to be enough. With Matt Donerty in P2 and Nick Pfaff holding P3, we think it'll be enough for a Drivers' Championship. Andrew Scott takes the checkered flag for victory. Matt Donerty P2 and Nick Pfaff P3 in this race. Not a victory to his name, and we think that might be enough points for him to take the Drivers' Championship away from Steph Franson and Street to Track, and potentially could be taking home a season champions victory cup. Today, we shall see. Dean van der Zandt has driven his way back into P4. An excellent strategy from him today. Well done for the CP Motorsports driver. Boris Blazenik will be taking home P5. And then Rob Jacobs, Mark Hasseldean, Brett Allen, and of course, Dave Chucky, who's unfortunately gone from a good situation to not an ideal one. So that is going to be Lobby 1 race today. We've got a lot to digest, and the admins are going to be mulling over the numbers in short order. So let's have a little look at the final results here today. As we said before, Andrew Scott does take that victory and the fastest lap of the race too. Matt Donerty will be in P2, Nick Pfaff in P3. The numbers are being crunched as we speak right now, gentlemen. That is fascinating, a fascinating race, some interesting strategy choices, a fastest lap of a 208.015, and a potential driver's champion who hasn't won a victory this entire season.
My goodness! If you thought real world racing had its drama and filled chaos, welcome to MotorMotion E Series. Welcome, you're joining us live here on the live stream for the first time in season 3. This has been an absolute cracker of a race here for Lobby 1 action. Andrew Scott taking the victory away from Matt Donerty on the final lap. You don't really see too many passes go for a final lap. Probably the last one from memory was the 2014 Supercars Bathurst 1000 when Chaz Mostert took the lead on at Forest Albert and didn't even lead a single lap. So Andrew Scott is playing kind of very similar as well, but takes the lead on the final lap. So well done to Andrew Scott, and well done to Nick Pfaff as well. What a season he's had. I think we don't really take too much credit away from him, but we do need to honor it because he has been a very good driver. He's been very consistent, always inside that top 3, top 4 positionings, getting a lot of podiums, helping his teammate Morgan Davey, who has always been that little bit faster than Nick Pfaff. But the lineup that these two have had have been very strong. I always considered Astor Racing to be one of the strongest duos on the grid behind Cooke Driver Development. So Nick Pfaff, if he comes out of this with the numbers being crunched at the moment, and if he is the Drivers' Champion, I definitely think that is a well-deserved championship going his way. And I'm sure the Astor boys will be joining the Cooke party bus and celebrating with a lot of Asahi beer.
Yep. That's exactly right. So let's talk driver of the day for Lobby 1. As I said before, the results and the standings are going to be calculated live here on stream. We'll have the results for you after Lobby 2 is finished. So here's the rest of the grid. Of course, Brett Allen, P8, Dave Chucky, P9, DNS for the rest of the grid. Steph Franson, Jason Oswald, Mick Hill, and Lewis Atkinson, and Morgan Davey. So in chat, do let us know your driver of the day today. And I'm going to kick things off. And I'm going to say Andrew Scott gets my driver of the day today with honourable mentions for Matt Dernedy and Nick Pfaff. We don't usually give the driver of the day to the top spot. But given he qualified in third, executed a great strategy, couple of hot-headed mistakes there, but didn't overshadow the overall race win and fastest lap of the day. So, Nick, let's go to you first, and then we'll head to Andrew Scott for the driver of the day nominations. Chat, do let us know who your driver of the day is today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely honourable mentions to Ando Scott and Matt Dernedy, but I'm definitely going to have to give it to Nick Pfaff. I think he's been a very consistent driver throughout this whole TCR championship. He's shown what he can do. He's shown some great consistency. Maybe, like I said, not the fastest driver compared to what Ando Scott and Matt Dernedy might be, but he has shown consistency and another podium next to his name in a championship going his way, and a very clean race to be well clear of Dean van der Zandt in P4 and Boris Blasenic in P5. I think that's a very good run. You know, if you run a lonely race, it can potentially lead to good things. And in this case, a championship going to his name, I think that and driver of the day goes for me to Nick Pfaff.
Excellent. Andrew Scott, let's go to you for driver of the day.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was pretty happy with my race. I'm very proud of myself there for that fastest lap and getting the strategy right and making that, that was a sexy pass there into turn 1 too. I swear, Your Honour, I did leave him a car width on the outside and there was no touching. But you know, if it wasn't for that muppet of a move into the Casio triangle, though, I don't know what I was thinking there. That was so impatient. So, no, I do not get driver of the day. I'm going to give it to, same as Spud, I'm going to give it to Nick Pfaff for just delivering that performance under pressure. You know, he needed to get fourth or better, and he did that, and that gave him the Drivers' Championship. So, you know, all the pressure was on him today to come through, and he did it, and he's our champion.
Yep, 2 right. So we'll get the final results of the standings at the end of Lobby 2, but we think Nick Pfaff has taken the Drivers' Championship today. Okay, so that's 2 points for Nick Pfaff. We've got Dernedy, I think that is, in chat saying Pfaff's race was perfect, did exactly what he needed. Well, I think we all agree with that. So that is going to be 3 votes for Nick Pfaff. Driver of the day, Nick Pfaff in Lobby 1, and we think the Drivers' Champion as well of Season 3. Also, another comment here, Dernedy's P11 and P8 in round 1 and 2 have been costly. Imagine what could have been if we had Dernedy up the top of the grid with his real pace in those early rounds.
Well, I'm sure Matt's in the chat right now. So, Matt, that was a brilliant, brilliant race from yourself. Your last 3 rounds have been absolutely spectacular. You've definitely put on a show for us here in the commentary box. The battle for P1 with Ando Scott at Daytona, and especially here, has been an absolute classic. And especially your victory at Bathurst was probably one of your best victories there. Obviously, your only victory in the Trak Racer TCR Cup, but it was a well-deserved. The time has been coming 11th and 8th in those opening couple of rounds. I do remember that, actually. So very costly, and you know, we could have been singing praises for another driver, but it is what it is. Results and races have been done. We can't turn back time, and Nick Pfaff is potentially going to be your champion in Season 3 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup.
Exactly right. So we've got one more housekeeping item, then we've got a short break ahead of us, then followed by Lobby 2 coverage. They're in qualifying right now. So let's quickly go to this housekeeping item, and that is the Carrera Cup Season 2, sponsored by Sterling Parts. That is coming up soon. So the teams and drivers getting themselves all organized, new liveries being made for those Porsche Cup cars. It's going to be a very exciting season, so get involved. Get over to the MotorMotion E-Series paddock and get yourself signed up for that. So we're going to go to a quick ad break, then we'll be on a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for Lobby 2 coverage. So stay tuned, go and get a beer, and stay tuned because we're going to be back with more Lobby 2 action and then interview with Scott Taylor and results of the season coming up for your viewing pleasure shortly.
Racks on racks.
Here at Sterling Parts, we've got power steering racks. We do racks for Ford, Holden, Toyota, Mazda, Hyundai, and heaps more.
Power steering racks are a super important part of your car. Do you know symptoms of a bad rack?
If you are having trouble steering, This could be from low power steering fluid, or you could even have a leak in the system. If you hear a noise when you're steering, this could mean the rack has not been lubricated or is starting to go dry.
And the worst one is if you smell burning oil, get out of there. Stop, drop, run.
So if you need a new rack, Sterling Parts has some great racks for you at www.sterlingparts.com.au, your one-stop aftermarket specialist.
All right, welcome back to the Trak Racer TCR Cup here on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel, a live broadcast for the final round of Season 3. We've had a magnanimous Lobby 1 coverage there, absolutely stunning stuff, and we think crowning a driver's champion in Nick Pfaff. That's to be confirmed after Lobby 2's race. And we were discussing in the break what might be seen in Lobby 2. We've got a few more cars on the grid, which is nice to see, and a few teams that will be battling for a points position. Not the team's title, not the driver's title in Lobby 2, but this should be a very interesting race, full of action for your viewing pleasure. Bear in mind, we do have Scott Taylor, the TCR Cup organizer. He'll be jumping into the commentary box after Lobby 2 for a short interview. And of course, we will have the final team's title and drivers' championship standings also available at the end of the stream. So stay tuned because we have lots to cover in the second half of this stream. But first, we do get to jump back to our slides, and we get now to talk about the qualifying results from Lobby 2 because they have just been made available. And we have Shannon Jones back in the car for Kung Fu Racing, taking over from their super sub in Shane Attard, and he is qualified on pole position, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're happy for Kung Fu Racing, just make sure you type in the W. Just type in W in the chat so you can give George that support and the love that he needs. But it is Shannon Jones making his return to the Trak Racer TCR Cup after missing the last few, and Shane Attard, being the absolute super sub that he's been, has now given the keys back to Shannon Jones. And then what a way to return with pole position in Lobby 2. Jeremy Crow, Mark Pacheco rounds up the PCR second and third place. And fourth place, Matthew Johnson for Juice Motorsports, Tony Griffin, and I think we definitely saw the best side of Tony Griffin last time out of Bathurst, almost taking a podium at his home track. What would have been a very famous podium for Mad Turtle Racing if Tony Griffin got that P3, but rounds up in P5 next to his teammate Andrew Ernst, which fills the third row of the grid here at the Suzuka circuit. Mitchell Cullen, what was a little bit of a disappointing round, still finished inside the top 5 at Bathurst, rounds up in 7th position for his own team in Cullen Racing Team. Troy Bricknell rounds up in 8th place. Matthew Hatton back in the Juice Motorsports entry in 9th place. Scott Taylor, very different qualifying position for him to be there. He's down in 10th place. So very, very interesting what happened with Scott Taylor's. Maybe no clean run, maybe just got wrong place, wrong time, maybe made too many mistakes on his run. But to see him down in 10th place is a very unusual sight to see. The man that shows great consistency, great tyre preservation, equaling the likes of Ando Scott and Dean Van Zet when it comes to tyres and fuel in these aspects of racing. Then we have Chris Patajak, Colin Fee, the second Kung Fu driver in 12th, and Michael Daly rounding up in 13th place. And it looks like the only driver that we are missing tonight is Luke Stone from Lightning Motorsports. So that is a key talking point here, ladies and gentlemen. No Luke Stone for Lightning Motorsport. We have seen the man has been very quick all season long. He's been very close to taking victories, just like we saw with Matt Donetti. You know, those two drivers getting close to taking victories. No Luke Stone tonight. So I think it's going to open up a can of worms, and it's going to open up who will take victory here tonight. So let us know in the chat if you want to know, if you let us know in the chat, of who you think is going to win this race. But I'm going to give my early predictions here, and I think I'm just going to have to bite the bullet again. I'm going to give the man some credit here. I'm going to try. He tried it was very close at Watkins. I'm going to give it go to Matthew Johnson. I want to see Matthew Johnson try and take a victory here in the Trak Racer TCR Cup Championship. He's been so close when it comes to the tyres and fuel game, just like Scott Taylor, but I think he just needs to get that victory. He needs to pull himself through, and a victory here will definitely give him some confidence when the next season of the Carrera Cup comes flying by.
Too right. So that'll be interesting for Johnson. P4, he's in a prime position, but he does have 2 PCR cars right ahead of him, and that does mean that he'll have a bit of teamwork to barge his way through. We almost had the bread in the sandwich or on the sandwich, I should say, being Kung Fu Racing, but Michael Daly decided to upset that little party there. But either way, Shannon Jones has got a chance of holding on here, but we know how good Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco are, especially when they're able to work together on the grid. That's not going to be the case for Kung Fu Racing or Juiced Motorsport. The only other team that's close together on the grid being Tony Griffin and Andrew Ensk for Mad Turtle Racing. So this will be an interesting one to see. Now, we do have a brief red flag out on circuit. We've got some issues with some pit lane reporting technologies. We're just sorting that out, and Andrew Scott will let us know when the green flag has been put back out for the race start. So we shall see exactly what's going to happen here in Lobby 2. And of course, bear in mind, Scott Taylor's interview coming up afterwards, as well as the final results for the driver's standings and the team's title. Now, my prediction here...
Remember... Sorry, I was gonna say, just remember PCR are fighting for P2 in the team's championship as well. So keep an eye on the PCR boys.
Yep, exactly right, because they are in competition with Asta Racing at the moment for that slot. Hassel 1 Motorsport's also up there. Luke Stone was giving the guys a little bit of a hassle, but nonetheless, Hassel Motorsport still in P5, I think it is, or P4 at the moment, and they're not too far off it as well, but they would have had to have a better result, unfortunately, than they had in Lobby 1, and it didn't quite work out for them, so I don't think they're going to be in there for the top 3 spots in the team title. We shall see. So, my prediction at the moment, I think it's going to be one of the PCR chaps. Yeah, I usually be the person to be biased and say Shannon Jones on for the race win. I think he's got a shot at it today, but the question will be how well he can execute the strategy ahead of 2 very fast chaps for PCR. So I think it's going to be either Jeremy Crow or Mark Pacheco taking home the flag, the checkered flag today. Let's get an update from Andrew Scott. Have we got a green flag on circuit?
Yeah, I'm liking Paco today, Mark Pacheco for the win, and GLR Scotty down in 10th, but he is starting on the hards, and expect to see him pull in on lap 1-2. I reckon he might be able to get back up to the podium. But hang on, I've just been given the green flag. I'm running across the rear of the grid now on track, waving the green flag. Guys, can you see me?
We can indeed. Yes, we can. So we are good to go, and we are now going to go racing for Lobby 2. It's the final lobby, the final 20 laps of Season 3, all about to happen right now. Stay tuned. We're about to go onto the grid.
I think he's had too many Asahi beers, to be honest.
Maybe 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. He enjoyed waving that green flag, and we're going to have another green flag, false grid start, and it's a good launch for Jeremy Crow. He's got a stunning launch, in fact, on the inside. This might be challenging Shannon Jones, but Shannon Jones off the line very effectively too. They're 3 wide in the background. Oh, it's a Mad Turtle racing car trying up the inside of turn 1. It hasn't worked out for him at all. There's another car gone very, very wide. Not sure who that
Tony
was.
Griffin.
We'll find out. That is Tony Griffin. So it's gone all wrong for Tony Griffin early on in this race. He's still trying to come back on track. That is a move there on Andrew Enks going into turn 3, and the S's, the PCR chaps, holding P2 and P3 nice and consistently. A good start from Shannon Jones in Kung Fu Racing. At the moment, he's building that early gap. That's what he needs to do in this race. Matthew Joynton also getting a good start, holding on to P4 right now. He's got Andrew Enks right behind him. Shame there for Tony Griffin to be elbowed out at turn 1. These things do happen. We've seen it many, many times in the history of this circuit. And now a huge amount of pressure being put on the back of Mitchell Collin by Troy Britnell. We've got Matt in the background there. He's going for it too, but they're going to be single file as they head up towards the chicane for the first time. GLR Scotty up into P9 now, thanks to Andrew Enks dropping down. Jack in P10, Colin Fee in P11. Michael Daly has picked up a penalty early on in this race, and there is Tony Griffin rounding out the grid in P13. But Shannon Jones, he'll be going up towards Spoon now. It's a decent lead that he is building at the moment, but I get the feeling he's on a slightly different tyre strategy from those behind. We saw the one stop on the hard tyre early on, and I get the feeling the PCR chaps are maybe doing that exact strategy. We will see after they go through the Casio triangle. Matthew Joynton still building a gap now over Andrew Enks, who's holding on nicely. He's going to head up the second pack in this race with Mitch Collin in behind, then Troy Britnell, and then of course Matt here for Juice Motorsport, holding on to things as well. He might be making a move on Troy Britnell at some point soon. Through 130R we go for the first time. Lap 1 out of 20 coming to its end very, very soon. And Shannon Jones will be going through for another lap here. I think he has started on a faster tyre. Will we see a pit stop by the PCR chaps? No, we do not. Will we see anyone doing a 1-lap hard stint? Let's keep an eye on the pit lane entry. At the moment, no one is. So the entirety, no, bar 1. Scott Taylor going for the one lap hard strategy. Everyone else in the grid, though, going again for lap 2.
Yeah, he's running the same strategies that the Cooke driver development driver in Ando Scott has run. So lap 1 on the hard tyres, as well as Matt Dinetti. So Nick Pfaff rather. So lap 1, get rid of those hard tyres and go for the 2-stopper on softs. So it's all about that full send. It's all about that clear track. He's got plenty of clear track. He's exiting the pit lane right now, and all the cars are coming through the snake section up towards Dunlop. We see Shannon Jones leading the race on lap 2. The PCR boys holding their own there. Obviously, as a tyre discrepancy amongst the top 3, top 4, we can definitely see Shannon Jones going for the full send. He's making his return, reminding our audience that he's making his return back to the Trak Racer TCR Cup. So he might not have had a lot of practice to get himself into the thick of things. So I wonder, he's just going to throw on the softs, go for the send, jump on a set of hard tyres, and then maybe go for another set on the soft tyres. So it's about trying to get that distance, trying to get that early lead and build that big gap that you can to run your strategy. But it'll be interesting to see what the PCR boys do. Will they run the 1-stop? Will they run a 2-stop like Scott Taylor? We'll find out very soon. But it was a very unlucky end there. A bit of an unfortunate start for Jeremy Crow. I did see there in the background, he was running side by side with Matthew Joynson in P4, but yeah, he just ran a little bit too wide, maybe just a little bit of hip barging there. Probably no further, there's no further investigation on that. So it's just a bit of a lap 1, turn 1 shenanigans, unfortunately. And unfortunately for that, Tony Griffin was caught in all of that. Goes from P5 down to P12, or P13 at the time, but has now moved up into P12 thanks to Scott Taylor's pit stop in that early stages. But he's got a good run, has Matthew Joynson. Looks to try and make a move on the Spanish wizard, that is Mark Pacheco, holding P3. And just ahead of him is his teammate in Jeremy Crow. What are the PCR boys? Do they come in this lap? No, they don't. So they're all the top 4 still running out on these hard compounds, minus Shannon Jones, who's on the soft compounds of tyres. But it is a very even start amongst the top 4, and we have to wait and see what's the strategy of Scott Taylor's going to be like at the end, coming up to the end of the first stint.
Yep, exactly right. It's Mark Pacheco's job right now to kind of hold off the attack that is Matthew Joynson and Juice Motorsport. A little bit of a wide run there for Jeremy Crow, so he's compromising himself, forcing Mark Pacheco to be back into a more compromised situation with Matthew Joynson. Joynson will be very keen to get in amongst this and become the meat and the sandwich between the PCR cars. He's going to be making a move maybe, or has a little look up the inside, but there's nowhere to really to go through the S's and up into Dunlop. It's really here where we get the run. Oh, bit of argy-bargy there going on. Unlucky, but at the end of the day, that door was always going to come to the close if he wasn't taking more of an inside line for Matthew Joynson, so PCR will get a little bit of breathing room in ahead. Pacheco clearly does not want the role of Minister for Defence today, I don't think, because Jeremy Crow is looking a little bit under pressure from his teammate right now. Have they been given the orders to play nice? Doesn't look like it, because Pacheco gets the move done. In fact, that might have been a team order. And Birdman, that's Jeremy Crow, will now be in the defensive position, holding off Matthew Joynson. Shannon Jones with the fastest lap, cruising off into the distance right now. But the question is, how well will the Kung Fu Racing driver manage his strategy across the remainder of the race?
Smart move there by PCR, obviously letting the faster driver in this current stage of lap 3 of 20 to let him go ahead. And Jeremy Crow just struggling, as we saw there, as he called it, just running wide through the snake, through the slalom section of Sector 1 here at Suzuka Circuit. So really struggling to heat up his hard tyres, but we have Matthew Joynson all putting the pressure on the 104. He needs to get past him, because you can see there Mark Pacheco's actually pulled a few good car lanes over his teammate in Jeremy Crow. So he's got the pace at the moment. It's just about holding off from Matthew Joynson. It looks like Mark Pacheco's just run wide at 130R. So they're kind of compromising each other a little bit. Matthew Joyson's going to get a little bit impatient. We don't know. We never see Matthew Joynson become a very impatient driver. But at this stage, was what we saw with Ando Scott and Matt Dinetti in Lobby 1. Impatience can cost you. Well, it could cost you a few positions and a few seconds on your opponents. Obviously, in the case of Ando Scott, he still managed to take the victory. But if this happens early on and Matthew Joynson becomes a little bit impatient, it can drop him well down the order and well outside the top 3.
Too right. Mitch Collin is under pressure from Troy Britnell. Nice 4-pack of racing going on here. Collin Racing trying to do the same as what PCR are doing up the top. Of course, they've got Patajak there holding off the other Juice Motorsports car. And in between them, though, is Troy Britnell, who we know is a fast contender on his favorite tracks. Mitch Collin, his favorite track being Bathurst last week, was indomitable there. He was really quick across the laps, but the strategy kind of fell a little bit to the wayside, unfortunately, for Colin Racing Team. They're going to be hoping for a slightly better result here today. That's maybe a move there, a little bit wide from Pautasso, but he's going to move back in front of the Juice Motorsport car. Looking around the grid, GLR Scotty's picked himself up a 0.5-second penalty, but he is going purple at the moment in his sectors, so looking good. Colin Fee's fallen fair way behind as well, might have gone for a pit stop, and then there's Tony Griffin rounding out, but at the moment still Shannon Jones at the top, and he's pulled out a fantastic gap as it stands right now, but the P2, 3, 4 positions are going to be the ones in contention right now. PCR versus Juiced Motorsport continues.
Yeah, so the battle pack for 5th place is pretty big there. So between Andrew Anderson, Mavalence, and Matsumako and Matthew Hatton, they're keeping each other very honest for the battle for P5, but the battle for P2 is still wide open. Mark Pacheco is actually not pulling away, so I think he's just running to a number, George. I think he must be just running to a race number, trying to pull Jeremy Crow with him, and then obviously with that is pulling along Matthew Joynson. So, like I said, it could just be a little bit, he doesn't want to be impatient, does Matthew Joynson, because in that position, he can save fuel and he can save just a little bit more tyres. He can even be one of the first drivers to pull an undercut on the PCR boys. So watch out for him as we go across to Ando Scott after being handed the green flag at the back of the track there with an Asahi can in his right hand, whilst with the left hand waving the flag there. How was that experience for you, waving the green flag, Ando?
I'll tell you what, it was a privilege, guys, but I did get a little bit of trouble. The marshals did say that I should not have had that glass bottle on the track as I ran across the back of the pack. So
that was a glass bottle. I thought it was a can.
For next time, yeah. But yeah, you got to have the stubbies, mate. The stubbies are always better than the cans. But yeah, look, I tell you what, some interesting strategies at the moment. A little bit different to Lobby 1. Cruisin' obviously is out there on the softs. He's going for it. But I'm really concerned for the PCR boys because they've started on hards. And they're going long on the hards. So it's yet to be determined if that's going to be optimal for them or not, because they're not going very fast. They're doing 212s and 213s, and they're holding up by Matthew Joynson, who has started on the mediums, would you believe? So that's why he's all over the back of them. So he started on mediums. So he's also going for a slightly off-kilt strategy. And
beautiful move.
He's saving big fuel. He's saving a lot of fuel, though, yeah. But if he can clear these guys, like he doesn't want to be going around doing hard times. He's on the medium, so he needs to clear these guys, really.
Yeah.
Well, they got a little bit shovey, didn't it?
We have had a lot of action while we've been talking over this. Matthew Joynson has made the overtake on Jeremy Crow, but a little bit of argy-bargy through Degda 2, and he picks up a 0.5-second penalty for his troubles. So yes, he needs to be running at the medium pace, and he's been stuck behind the hards doing their times. But now he's got this penalty. It might bring Jeremy Crow back into the action here. Interesting to see that we've got 3 very different strategies amongst the top 4. That's Matthew Joynson running very wide. Troy Britnell back in the fight with Mitch Collins' team, Colin Racing Team. He had a whole bunch of problems. Ran wide at turn 1, has had issues. He's fallen out of that battle for 3-way. There's the penalty served for Matthew Joynson. Jeremy Crow goes back on through, and it is back to what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
back to what we were.
I think he just may have escorted Jeremy Crow a little bit wide at the end of Deck 2. What looked like, I thought it was a very nice move then. I thought it was just Jeremy Crow running a bit wide. It looked like there may have been a little bit of side contact between Matthew Joynson and Jeremy Crow. So he did put the blinker on.
Big issue for Andrew Anks.
There.
Got to cut you off
the right
there, sorry.
Thing, bit of courtesy and just let him through.
Through 130R, Andrew Anks has run right off track. He is now back in P10 and being overtaken by GLR Scotty. Wow, Lobby 2 has been all sorts of action in these first 5 laps. We've had a no break whatsoever to talk about what's going on. It's just action, action, action on track right now. Andrew Engson, P11 now. Colin Fee, P12. Tony Griffin and P13. Cruisin' still chilling out front, cruising away on his return to TCR Cup. And then all these issues here between the PCR chaps and Matthew Joynson going at it. I mean, what a battle for P2 right now. But Pacheco's kind of got it in the bag. He'll run away with things. I'm fascinated to see why we've got a hard strategy here, though, because Hooncorp were the only ones to try that with Rob Jacobs in the previous lobby. It didn't really work out for them. And now here we see 2 of the top running teams here. Well, one of the top running team, essentially, PCR, trying the same thing in lobby 2.
Yeah, I tell you
Yeah,
what, George, watch out for Scotty at the end of this race because he's had some clear air and he pitted on lap 1, as you probably recall. He got rid of the hard, so I'm definitely going to have to change the password, the login password on the Cooke supercomputer because I think someone's hacking it, and he's got the master strategy, and he's doing 2-minute 10s, and he could be in the box seat here come the end of the race because the guys that are up the front, I don't know if they're on the right strategy.
it is very interesting because I think he is coming up towards the pack now. Like I think he's sitting in 10th place at the moment. He's right behind his teammate in Michael Daly in Mick D79. So the name that the infamous name that we could never get right, we finally got it right. Michael Daly running in 9th ahead of his teammate Scott Taylor. So I wonder if it's just going to be an easy wave by. Different strategies, of course, between the two gridline racing drivers. So Scott Taylor's going to get through his teammate with ease. But I think the problem is as well, and he is getting up towards lap traffic. So that might just cost him a little bit. It might cost him maybe a few seconds here or there. But I think I kind of have to agree with you that with the drivers up in the top 5, at least the top 3, obviously with Cruz and Shannon Jones running the alternate strategy, running on a soft tire, he actually doesn't let Scott Taylor through. Okay, that is interesting for Michael Daly. So no team orders here at Gridline Racing. Scott Taylor was hoping that his team was going to let him drive by so he can actually get some clear air. But now coming onto this pit straight, he might actually wave the white flag, throw the indicator on, and let his teammates through. But we'll wait and see because I don't know what's going on here. He's pulled out of the slipstream. He's coming into turn 1 right now, sends it on the brakes, gets the move done on the inside. We can see Troy Britnell's run very wide, taking the alternative line in the first corner, turns 1 and 2. And unfortunately, he loses out to Scott Taylor and Michael Daly as well. So very unlucky there for Troy Britnell, the sole Lightning Motorsports driver.
Yeah, he's had a whole bunch of issues at turn 1. Hasn't really been faring particularly well on the entry. Just keeps running a little bit too deep, maybe carrying a little bit too much speed into the corner. Very hard to get right because you are essentially leaning on those left-hand tyres and seeing what they're going to let you get away with. We've got Andrew Enks battling with Colin Fee at the moment for P11 at the moment. And there might be a little bit of a move there. We shall see. But yeah, Kung Fu Racing having a interesting dynamic race between their two drivers at the moment. Oh, this is a spicy
very
battle, Andrew.
There.
Yeah, very ambitious. Does kind of spook Andrew Enks just that little bit. He gets a little bit offline, but pulls the car back onto the tarmac nicely. Will be ascend at the chicane. Let's see. Colin Fee in the number 52 Kung Fu Racing car. No, it is not. That battle will continue, I am sure. So we're coming up towards the 9 or 10 lap point here. This is where Cruisen's soft tyres are going to be getting rather short on grip. He's setting 212s on the soft tyres. So that is not the pace that he needs to be setting at this stage of the race. Bear in mind, he's still got to jump onto the hard tyres at some point soon too.
Yeah, so I think if he's running 2-minute 12s, 2-minute 11s, we'll wait and see what this lap is. If he doesn't come into the pit lane or not, he might have to run a little bit longer on the hard compound tyres. He's got to probably stretch it out to lap 10, as predicted by the Cougar supercomputer. Lap 9, lap 10 might be the possibility for him. So he's only going to do 2 more laps to try and get to that target, and then throw on the hard tyres for 2 laps, and then go for it on the softs. But it's not really the pace of a soft compound, unfortunately. We've seen Tony Griffin sort of 209.6. That's faster than what Shannon Jones has. Got a lot of clear air. He's down the order as well in 13th and last place. But Mark Pacheco, Jeremy Crow, and Matthew Joyce has actually lost a little bit of this battle pack between himself and Jeremy Crow. A little bit further back, but he's slowly trying to close up a bit on Jeremy Crow. So these two are still duking it out for P3. And yeah, like as reported by Ando Scott, he is on the medium compound. So what a different strategy, what an interesting strategy that is for Matthew Johnson. And so far, it's not working.
That's right. Let's go to our pit lane reporter because we've got Matthew Hatton, the other Juice Motorsport driver, catching up to his teammate Matthew Joynton, who's been stuck behind Jeremy Crow on the hard tyres for far too long. What is the strategy difference there between the Juice Motorsports car? They're both on mediums. And how is this faring at the moment for Matthew Joynton sitting behind Jeremy Crow?
So Matt Hatton is actually on softs. And this could be his last lap on them too, lap 8, because they're not looking great. But still the pace is good. His fuel's okay. But I tell you what, Matthew Joyson, he could go long on the mediums here because he has a lot of fuel compared to the cars around him. But he's doing hard lap pace because he's stuck behind the PCR boys that have been going around doing 212. So I don't know if this is going to work for him. And Pacheco's managed to check out a little bit on those hards and get up towards the P1. But P1, I think he might be in this lap too. He's in trouble on his softs as well.
Wow, and that's
Yeah.
on lap 8.
I slowly predicted he was going to try and go for one more, maybe the end of lap 9. But if he comes into the pit lane, we'll see if the car veers right into the pit box. No, it doesn't. So he's going to go for one more lap there, Ando. So
Gonna be a slow
running
one.
on the rims. Yeah, it's going to be a very slow lap. A 2-minute 12.6 on that last lap. So he's been setting 2-minute 12s for the past 3 laps. Mark Pacheco's also been setting 2-minute 12s, but there is a tyre compound difference between them. A worn soft versus a so-so, probably a fresh-ish enough hard compounds that it's getting into temperature. They're kind of matching each other now, so I'm not sure. We have Scott Taylor coming through to the start-finish line. We'll wait to see what his lap time is. It's a 2-minute 12 flat for Scott Taylor, so he's not setting lightning pace as well. So I think
he's had problems with traffic.
Yeah, so that's what I've been calling as well. That the lap traffic has hurt him massively. 2-minute 13 on lap 7, 2-minute 10 as his fastest. But yeah, just going through navigating the lap traffic, which were consistent of the CRT boys, his teammates, Lightning Motorsport, a couple of the Mad Turtle drivers as well. So he hasn't really been setting the world alight as well. But now he's got clear air finally. But he's only got 2 more laps, Ando, before he comes into the pit lane. So it hasn't worked out for Scott Taylor either.
Not really, but he's still going to be relevant. This is really up in the air. We've got Cruising out in front on 2 fully red tyres, and he's limping into the pits now. He's doing it. It's going to be a terrible lap time. We've got the 2 PCR boys going long on the hards, which we're not sure is the best way to go. We've got Johnson on the mediums, which we're not sure is the best way to go. So this could be a case of like the least worst strategy wins it today, guys, this one in Lobby 2.
I was going to say, yeah, it seems like the least worst is going to be the way to go. Who has mucked it up the least?
It's going to be close, though, because who knows? At this point, it's all up in the air.
Well, I think, Nick, this is when we come back to the old adage of Lobby 2/Division 2 providing us the best racing, because this is the biggest mix-up of strategy we've seen in round 8 so far. And it's going to be absolutely fascinating. I can't call it at this point. We've got ruined softs at the front, then hard tyres behind, and then medium tyres, and then a mix of more softs, and then one person on the optimum strategy who's having an absolutely shocking time. That's Shannon Jones coming into the pits now. I'm fascinated to see how long the PCR guys stay out on these hard tyres. We saw Rob Jacobs make it to the end of lap 14 on his hard tyres. That's when he ran out of fuel, essentially. They might be aiming to take these hard tyres as far as possible and only go for the one stop, but we know that it's not optimum, and as Andy said, it's the question of whose strategy is going to work out the least bad at this point.
I'll tell you what, I think what the PCR boys are doing is they're kind of tracking where Scott Taylor is. As now Scott Taylor's moved up to P5 as Matthew Johnson still can't get past Jeremy Crow. He's so impatient. He's going to start throwing fists anytime soon on Jeremy Crow. He doesn't want to see a PCR car ever again for the last time in the MotorMotion E-Series Trak Racer TCR Cup. But he's going to get it done around the outside through the slalom section before Dunlop. He doesn't. You can see the car. He's running very wide lines here. It's a very good way to kind of save your tyres a little bit. Just run the car a little bit wide, turn it in narrow, so you can just get a little bit of more straight line exit. But he's doing well, but unfortunately not well enough to get ahead of Jeremy Crow. He's been stuck behind that rear wing since lap 2. So he's going to start getting impatient. Yeah. He's going to start getting impatient. He's pushing, but don't push, Matt. You need to get past him.
Yeah, exactly right. It's too deep. Nearly goes in the back.
Could help him. He got a bit of traction at the end of the hairpin. He's got a lot more pace now. He's got a good running that slipstream. Pull to the outside if you can. That will lead to the inside through Spoon Curve. What does he do? Jeremy Crow parks the car in the middle, so nice defensive driving by Jeremy Crow. Matthew Johnson, can he throw the car? Sneaks the nose in. Bit of contact made. Pushes Jeremy Crow a bit wide. He's slowing down, and it's Matthew Johnson again. He can't get past him. This is costing the 777 of Matthew Johnson and Juiced Motorsport the chance to potentially win this race. But I think the key thing is as well, ladies and gentlemen, that Scott Taylor has already made a pit stop. He hasn't put fuel in the car. He's just thrown on softs and he's going for it. We're looking at about lap 11, lap 12 that he's going to come into the pit lane. So if the top 3 or more or less likely the top 4 with Chris Patterjack still staying out, If they come into the pit lane and Scott Taylor comes in as well, like I said, I just don't think it's worked out for Scott Taylor. But as you have to remember, Matthew Johnson is on mediums. He has to throw on hards at the end. I don't think it's worked for him at all.
No, I don't think so at all. Yeah, so I think Andrew Scott was in the middle of a thought there. Let's throw back to Andrew Scott in the pit lane for some more analytics, because this is going to be a race of analysing the statistics. Who's doing what, when, we're not sure. So let's get some more analytics from Andrew Scott in the pit lane to help illuminate the current situation that's going on.
I think the Me Cougar's on fire at the moment.
Oh, the supercomputer's having conniptions. It's going, what are they thinking? what do they think? But Matt Johnson, he's got a real fuel advantage. He's going to pick up about 5 seconds of a gain in the pit stop, just on fuel alone. But he has to run the hard, so he has to either go long on the hards or pit twice more compared to the PCR boys ahead of him. And Scotty's sitting there. He's not far off them now. He's only got Mr. Sarte in between him and 4th position. And he'll be in this lap, and then he'll have 9 laps on the softs to finish off the race. So it's going to be between him and the 2 PCR boys for the win today, I think.
I think so, but you have to look at the gap between where Scott Taylor is and where Mark Pacheco is. You have to remember the top 4 have not made a pit stop, ladies and gentlemen. Scott Taylor has, so he's committing to a 2-stop, while the rest in front are running on the 1-stop strategy. It looks like it's helping the PCR boys. It hasn't helped Matthew Johnson because he has to throw on some hard tyres. I'm sure Chris Patajak as well. I'm sure he's on hard tyres as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Scott, or you might be running mediums. I'm not 100% on that.
He's on hards.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. So even Chris Patajak is being a little bit of a factor in this as well. So this has gone absolutely crazy. We're going to come up to 9 laps of racing at the end of this lap. Mark Pacheco and Jeremy Crow leading a PCR 1-2. Matthew Johnson yet to come to the pit lane to throw on a set of hard tyres. Chris Patajak could be the X factor here. He could potentially get himself a good points position inside the top 4, potentially top 5.
Yeah, and
well
if
done
he does,
to him.
Yeah, and that would be obviously one of his best results of the season. In fact, that would be the best result of the season for him. Mitch Collin at the moment leading another battle pack in P6. Got Troy Britnell and Colin Fee just behind him. I don't think Troy Britnell, Mitch Collin, or Eccles, that's Colin Fee, have actually pitted yet. There's Scott Taylor. He's coming in, 17%.
The PCR guys have gone around again.
They're
doing 12 hard.
No,
Scotty's becoming relevant here.
Scotty has got a huge chance here now. He'll be on the faster tyre. He's got more overtakes to do, of course, but not too many at this stage now. He's gone through the bulk of it. Just needs to get the pace up from 212s down into the low 210s or 209s. Mick Daly has come in for a pit stop. Tony Griffin is in for his pit stops. Chucks away the soft tyres, but they're going to have a slower stint to go and do. Same with Colin Fee. And Pacheco still leading this race, but 12 laps on the hard tyre. I mean, we know that the 14 laps on the hard tyre did not work out for Rob Jacobs.
No.
12 laps hard tyre.
They're doing 213. So if they're not careful here, Scotty's going to jump him in the pit stop.
Wow. Yeah, they're going to pit right now.
They're going to come in this lap. They better.
They better.
Because
they'll be
had a huge gap
in the jaws of victory if they don't.
Exactly, but they had quite a good gap over Scott Taylor.
It is still a decent gap, but Scotty's laid down a few fast ones, so he's cut into it.
Yeah, but by how much? That's going to be the question. Matthew Hatton has taken the fastest lap of this race at 209.555, so he's currently holding on to those extra points that you get for the fastest lap in this race. He's having an interesting race. He's currently in P8. He is behind Shannon Jones, but not by much. So I think Matt Hatton also has a tyre advantage now over Shannon Jones. We have an update because Shannon Jones was leading this race, is now in P7 after pitting off the soft tyres. So how are we doing for Shannon Jones and Matthew Hatton? What kind of strategies are they on at the moment, Andrew Scott?
Well, so I'm just coming out of the men's room at 1:30 arc, guys, so...
Okay, we'll give him a moment to sort things out. Scott Taylor's sitting there in P9. Mark Pacheco has come into the pits. We expect Jeremy Crow to come into the pits as well. 5 litre difference between Pacheco and Jeremy Crow, so a little bit of time save there for Mark Pacheco.
Remember, it was 17% for Scott Taylor, so
yes.
A 10% difference. So this is the one we have to keep an eye on. I think the gap is going to be more or less the same. Maybe Scott Taylor's going to close it quite a fair chunk of the gap, but By how much though? Their fuel's going into the PCR of Mark Pacheco right now, and now with Jeremy Crow, the fuel number is going up. I can see Scott Taylor's looking at that leaderboard and looking at those fuel numbers go up. He's about into the 50%. Let's wait and see. He's coming up towards Casio Triangle right now. The fuel is still going in the PCR cars. That's got 72% for Mark Pacheco. Jeremy Crow still putting fuel inside his car. He comes out of the pit lane. Mark Pacheco leads. Where does Jeremy Crow come in all of this? Jeremy Crow coming out of the pit lane right now. I don't see Scott Taylor. There he is. He's coming onto the pit straight, and he's now holding into P3 at this current stage. Chris Patajak is about to come out of the pit lane right now, and what could be crucial P4 for him in this race. A very good result for Chris Patajak, but I think what we just called it there, the one stop versus the two stop, that's equal pegging now, George. They're both on softs, and the PCR boys are looking to hold on for this remarkable 1-2 finish.
Exactly right, yeah, and we've got soft runners all the way around the grid right now, and at the moment we've got Matthew Hatton putting a lot of pressure onto Shannon Jones, and things are maybe going from from okay to maybe not so okay for Shannon Jones at this point with that Juice Motorsports car making the move on the chicane. It's a nice dive down the inside, beautifully done by Matthew Hatton in the red Juice Motorsports car. Shannon Jones will be still side by side though, still a chance to hold on to the position, but outside line into Spoon, well, we all know how that goes. It does not usually go particularly well, though he does have the overspeed at the moment, so got a better exit out of the chicane, pulls in ahead, and actually it's a move back into P2 for Shannon Jones. Matthew Joynson, of course, in P1, but still to do his pit stop that he needs to do. Let's keep an eye on the gap here as well. Still quite significant between Jeremy Crow and GLR Scotty. Who is going to set the fastest lap between them? That's going to be the key, and how close will the gaps be between them all? Mark Pacheco, I think right now, is potentially in the box seat, although Shannon Jones still got a chance at this. But he'll be running on the hards now.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting. It's a huge dilemma. Well, Matthew Johnson started lap 14 of 20 with 7 laps to go till the end of this race. Is he looking to do it? Is he looking to run this stint out for what, 17, 18 laps? I'm not so sure what the fuel tank reads. I mean, if we can get back to Ando, if he's come back from his little break from 130 hours Portaloo, do you have any updates on what the fuel tank can actually do around this track? Can it go the distance? Do you need to come in and put a little bit of splash of fuel if Johnson does go for the short hard tyre stint?
Yeah, he's really been able to save a lot of fuel behind those PCR guys, so he's not even flashing red yet. He could go another lap if he wants to, so he might be looking at a 15 medium and 5 hard strategy, which is really interesting because he's doing 2-minute 13s and 2-minute 14s. I think he's short shifting too much. I think he's saving too much fuel. His lap pace is not competitive. I don't think this strategy, I don't think, can work for him. But his medium tyres are just about done. He may well be able to get one more lap though, so I think he might do one more lap on these mediums, and then try to finish off with 5 hards.
Okay, so I thought he was able to try and stretch it maybe a little bit more, like 16 or 17. With the tyres and fuel, but obviously not quite. So 5 laps on a hard tyre is going to be quite a little bit challenging for Matthew Johnson if he's going to have any chance of getting on the podium. But unfortunately, that is looking less likely now with Scott Taylor rounding up P3 or provisional P3 at the moment. But the top 3 yet to come into the pit lane. We know that Shannon Jones looks like he might have to come into the pit lane. But I think from what we've heard there, I mean, we didn't get any analytics on Shannon Jones, but if he's on the hard tyres, do we think he's going to run to the end? And do you think he might just run to the end? He's holding on to a very good position. He had very good track position in that opening stint, but there is the PCR driver, Mark Pacheco. You can see in the background there, the blur of the Red Bull livery PCR Mazda 3 is coming, and he's coming fast, and he's going to try and see if he can get P1 overall.
Yeah, Matthew Hatton is a bit out of position here because he does have to pit again. But definitely Shannon Jones, he's got fresh hards and he's fueled up for the end of the race. So, you know, after 14 laps with only 6 laps to go, I don't think it's worth him pitting to get rid of the hard. So I'd say he's gonna stay out.
Yeah, and if he stays out, then obviously the threat of Mark Pacheco is significant. Oh, Matt Hatton, that is a massive, massive move off the side of turn 1. It's not worked out for him particularly well. and that puts a car back in between Mark Pacheco and Shannon Jones. Very interesting there. But yeah, we shall see. Not sure if this is going to work out for Shannon Jones because Pacheco is going quickly, and they're at the 209s. That's what he needs to be doing on the soft tyres. So the PCR chaps obviously have a good amount of pace on the softs now that they're off their hard 12-lap hard strategy. I do want to redirect our attention briefly to probably one of the funnier comments that we've had in the chat so far from, I won't say the name, PCR Windows XP computer. So there you go. There's the difference between the team budgets this year. One team has got a supercomputer, the other running a Windows XP computer. Fantastic. Great comment there. I'm not sure if Jeremy Crow or Mark Pacheco will appreciate that comment, but nonetheless, we'll leave that to the team's owners chat later on.
Well, remember as well, you have to remember Williams was running an Excel spreadsheet for their 2022-2023 cars.
Yes.
Tell you what, if PCR's got a Windows XP, I don't know what Kung Fu Racing's got. They got a Commodore 64 or something.
We've got an abacus. We've got an abacus.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because Cruisen's in trouble. So Shannon Jones now linking oil badly on the hards. He's got a barnstorming Pacheco right on his under his rear wing now on fresh soft. So this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel for him.
Yeah, exactly right. We got Matthew Joynton now into the pits. 1% of fuel on board, so he's run it right to the raggedy edge on the medium tyres. And we think he's going to be jumping. Well, he has to jump onto the hard tyres now for 5 laps. Oh, nearly a move there for Mark Pacheco. But with 5 laps remaining, and I do think that Shannon Jones might not just be losing this position, which is currently the net lead of the race. Mark Pacheco is really in the box seat. Surprising to say so, given a 12-lap hard strategy, but we're seeing it happen right now. The abacus calculations we've done earlier at Kung Fu Racing not working out. Big inside lunge there for Mark Pacheco. Tries to be held off by Shannon Jones. Not a lot of space given by either.
Wow.
Shannon Jones so keen to hold on to P1, but sadly it has come to a short and brief end at turn 1. Huge send there from Mark Pacheco.
What
that
a move.
was a confident send.
Literally just given a car's width there on the inside line. You don't really see cars go for a very narrow entry into turn 1, turn 2. It's probably the worst line you can take. Mostly you try to sweep it around the outside if you're going for a move. If you have confident tyres, as we normally see in the Formula 1s and Super GT and Super Formula Series. But my goodness, the inside line, and just to turn it in so narrow, full confidence of Mark Pacheco. Well done. That was a great move there. I thought Matt Donetti's Moses move 2 for 1 was a solid move in Lobby 1. I think we've seen one equal here in Lobby 2.
Agreed on that. Jeremy Crow is going to be making his way up towards the back of Matt Hatton. That's a very good sectored one time there from Jeremy Crow. Pedajak has just set the fastest lap for Mitch Collins Racing Team at 209.351. So that fastest lap time is coming down. Still well within range for a lot of these drivers out there, and I would say especially for the PCR chaps who are looking quick at the last part of this race. 5 laps to go, and the order looks like this. Mark Pacheco from Shannon Jones, from Matthew Hatton, who has to pit yet again. Jeremy Crow in P4. Gila Scotti, he is still a fair way back. I don't think he's made the progress he needs to, despite being in the 209s in P5.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing there for Scott Taylor to be down in P. Well, he's going to take P3 nonetheless, but it all depends where Shannon Jones comes out, because where Shannon Jones is, he's in that pack with the top 3. But if he could just hold on, it's only 4 more laps to go here. A famous podium for Kung Fu Racing is on the cards here, and he can hold on to this. And if he does well, if he's got enough fuel, and if he can maybe save a little bit extra and really push those hard tyres, it'll be a very good result for Kung Fu Racing to get their first podium in the Trak Racer TCR Cup.
Indeed, so he will have a bit of a work to do, though, to hold off Gila Scotti, who we know is such a fast contender in these races, always has a good strategy up his sleeve. But at the moment, the supercomputer strategy being beaten on track by the PCR's Windows XP computer, so I'm not sure if Andrew Scott's got anything to say about that. We'll jump down to him now. We've just seen Matthew Hatton into the pits on 10% fuel, and the question is, can Gila Scotti get up ahead of Shannon Jones? Is Shannon Jones running okay at the moment? PCR 1-2.
Yeah, well, the Me Cooke supercomputers did not say stuff up quali and start in 10th. So that's where Scotty says. So we'll ask him about that in the interview after this race. Actually, we'll say, what the hell happened to your quali, mate? That obviously cost him a bit, and then he picked up a penalty or 2 as well. So that wasn't optimal. But You know, someone in the commentary team picked Pacheco, didn't they, at the start of this race?
Oh, I said one of the PCR guys. I didn't say Pacheco because I thought it was going to be Jeremy Crow. But yes, one of the PCR chaps. That's what I did say. But
yeah, well, someone else in the commentary team said Pacheco, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, did they? Really?
As he was waving the green flag while he's running across the back of the
grid.
Did he really? Yeah.
Did he really?
One of them, yeah, I think he did.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
There you go. But what I'm confused here, George, is what happened to Shannon Jones? He was well in that top 3 battle pack, and now he's just drawn into the clutches of Scott Taylor. So I thought Shannon Jones was going to sit comfortably to keep inside the top 3, but a big mistake somewhere. We did not see it on the cameras, but a huge, costly mistake there for Shannon Jones.
He's fighting with Matthew Hatton.
Yeah, but he hasn't switched on the hard tyres. So ever since he pitted, his best laps are 2:12.6. He's doing 2:12s and 2:13s.
130 move. Here we come with Scott Taylor. He's just behind the rear wing, or the rear front bumper of Shannon Jones, but he gets the move done. Shannon Jones doesn't want to give it up. He's on the hard compounds. He's going to have to brake a little bit earlier. Scott more confident on the brakes there. Takes P3 away from Shannon Jones. Bit of heartbreak for the Kung Fu driver who took pole position, was leading the early races right up until lap 8 before he came into the pit lane for a fresh set of hard tyres. But yeah, I think just a mistake on that last lap because he was running with Jeremy Crow and Mark Pacheco, and I think he was going to look comfortable for a P3, but maybe a mistake through the slalom section in sector 1 must have cost him.
I think it was just the fact that Scott Taylor is 4 seconds a lap faster than him right now.
Yeah, okay.
So you can, in the space of a lap or two, you can make up a lot of ground on someone if you are 4 seconds a lap faster than them.
Yeah,
interesting indeed. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, we've talked about the hard tyre being hard to activate here. Well, clearly is. I mean, Suzuka is usually a fairly slippery track as it is. So if it was a mistake, it was a mistake. But yeah, 4 seconds a lap is a big delta between the cars, and unfortunately for Shannon, he's now going to have to contend with Matthew Joynson running behind, and the strategy today for Kung Fu Racing has not worked out for Shannon Jones at all, and the hard tyre just not going the distance that he needs it to, or not finding the pace on the hard tyre that he needs to, that's for sure.
Well, 2:24 on that lap, he definitely has made a mistake.
True. He's definitely made a mistake then, yeah, because that's 11-second delta.
I don't know if that's correct though, because that'd put him way back. So I don't know if that's just GT7 things happening or not. But what's interesting now is that Joynson's right on his tail, and he's on fresh hards. So we're going to see the speed difference, the delta between fresh hards and worn hards, because Shannon Jones's hards are about 6 or 7 laps old, I think. They're just about 1/3 worn. So Joynson could be looking good to get past him too now.
But wouldn't you prefer a worn hard tyre that's already worn into the track and you'd be able to push it a little bit more? Would you actually prefer a fresh hard set of tyres for this last stage?
Well, you'd think so, yeah. But I think the fastest hard tyres somewhere in between the two. So I think Black Friday's hards are a little bit green still, but Shannon Jones's hards are still are definitely a little bit too worn. I think past their best. Let's say past their best.
We've had an update from on track. Shannon did have a spin at turn 1 on the hard tyre. There was a squeal, and so he did have an issue during that lap. So a combination of all the factors that we've discussed here for Shannon Jones that has unfortunately allowed him to slip back. If he hadn't had that issue at turn 1, then he would have in fact been still up there, potentially still running ahead of GLR Scotty. Now he's under a lot of pressure from Matthew Joynson, who's coming on through. What's happened to Andrew Enks? Yes, we have had a report from the pit lane. Andrew Enks has had a DNF. The car has been retired for reasons unknown.
Interesting. So very unlucky there for Andrew Enks. It obviously went from bad to worse for Mad Total Racing. We saw Tony Griffin on lap 1 get escorted wide, but it was a little bit of a mistake there. I don't think it was anybody's fault going through turn 1, turn 2 between himself and Matthew Joynson. So very unlucky there as he looks for a move in Degner 2. He tried that on Jeremy Crow, but he brakes a little bit earlier to not send him wide. Chris Padajak lurking in the background on soft tyres with 1.5 laps to go. But I think as well, it just hasn't been Mad Total's day, unfortunately. Tony Griffin almost getting a famous podium at Bathurst, but unfortunately right down the rear of the field, and one DNF has just been a race to forget for the Total Boys.
Yeah,
Right,
I can report that. Yeah, I can report that Tony Griffin and Matthew Joynson coming together was a little bit laggy by the looks of it. Could have been a little bit of lag involved.
Oh,
And,
they both run wide! Oh, wow,
Wow.
is there oil on the track there? Because I saw Chris Patajak run wide as well, so 3 cars running wide at Spoon Curve. Who's leaking oil in the front 3? But my goodness, maybe it was the DNF from Andrew Ants that maybe laid a little bit of oil on Spoon Curve. I'm not 100% sure, but we saw Shannon Jones lose the rear end of the car. Matthew Joyson run very wide at Spoon Curve, and then we saw Chris Patajak run wide as well. So, my goodness.
Yeah, we had understeer and oversteer all on screen in real-time high definition in synchronized fashion. You'd love to see it. That is Spoon. I mean, Spoon is a tricky one to get right sometimes. You know, it's the difference between braking, trail braking a little bit too much or too little to get the understeer, to get the car turned in through that first part, the entry into Spoon, and then of course on the exit when the track sort of starts to drop away from you a little bit, the camber is a little bit off camber as well, which does not help. Matthew Joynson looking again on the exit of turn 1. He's got a little bit of there's a bit of touchy. Matthew Joynson has tapped the rear end of Shannon Jones and taken the position. Okay, so not the cleanest move there by Matthew Joynson, but he's been showing impatience, unfortunately, all the way through this round. Clearly thought that he wanted a better position than where he's at right now on the mediums behind hard runners for a long time. A little bit unfortunate that Shannon Jones has become the victim of that, but nonetheless, the position is now Matthew Joynson's up into P4. Pacheco, though, he's on the final lap of this race. It's all flown by 20 laps at Suzuka. So much action in Lobby 2, so many different strategies we've seen today. But the PCR chaps are looking at a 1-2 finish at the moment with Mark Pacheco, who qualified behind Jeremy Quo, currently in the lead of this race, with Gil Scotti rounding out the podium position here and under no pressure whatsoever from the cars behind. So, yeah, there we go. This is going to be basically it.
Yeah, well-deserved potential 1-2 finish here for PCR. So the two best mates, best two teammates that they know each other on and off the track. They're working so well together. They came together to form PCR for the Trak Racer TCR Championship after running with Mitchell Collin for Collin Racing Team, has now ventured off and done their own thing, and they are getting themselves a famous 1-2 victory as they're coming through Casio Triangle for the final time. Mark Pacheco, the Spanish wizard, coming through the Casio Triangle. Looks like he's going to slow down for his teammate. It's going to be a famous 1-2 victory here for PCR. He does slow the car down. It is a formation finish for Mark Pacheco and Jeremy Crow, a PCR 1-2. Congratulations to those two drivers. An excellent race. Some great racing, a great strategy, different strategy compared to what we normally see, but it gets them the victory and second place. 1-2 in the race, and that seals them P2 in the team's championship. What a way to do it, and what a way to seal that. Scott Taylor rounds up in P3. Matthew Joynson, with a bit of a question mark over his head, rounds up in P4. Shannon Jones, got to take my hat off him. Still a great race for the Kung Fu driver, making his return to the TCR Championship, rounds out the top 5. But it is the day that I think everyone's favorite team here at Trak Racer TCR Cup. It is PCR 1-2, Mark Pacheco taking the victory from his teammate Jeremy Crow, sealing P2 in the team's championship. Well done to those two boys. Absolutely well deserved, and a great season for PCR. Scott Taylor rounds up third. Matthew Joynson, Shannon Jones, Chris Patajak, his best result to date in position 6, with Colin Fee rounding up the top 7. So also another great day for Kung Fu Racing. Troy Britnell, Tony Griffin gets his way back up into 9th place. So not a bad race after all for Tony Griffin to get himself back inside the top 10. Mitchell Collin rounds up that position in 10th place. Michael Daly, Matthew Hatton, after running two set of soft tyres in those opening stints, then finished on the hard. So unfortunately for him, just did not work the strategy out. Finishes in 12th and last place, with unfortunately Andrew Ernst in Mavellan's getting the DNF, and Luke Stone a non-starter here for our 14-man grid. So, wow, we always say Lobby 2, Division 2 is our favourite, and I think that delivered, and what a race that was.
Oh, it was amazing. Really, really good stuff. So, chat, do let us know who your driver of the day is. We want to hear, because I get the feeling that we're going to have a little bit of a struggle here today, figuring out exactly what's going on. There might be some bias involved as well, so I might as well kick things off and I'm going to give my driver of the day, despite the poor result, a good qualifying there from Shannon Jones, our first pole position at Kung Fu Racing, and the best result we've had all season in a P5. He's been away for 5 weeks. He's come back for the final race, and to have a race like that, I think overall very, very impressive, despite the slightly lackluster strategy that we had from our abacus calculations this week. So my driver of the day will be going to Shannon Jones today, but certainly an honorable mention for both Mark Pacheco and Jeremy Crow at PCR, and a P2 in the team's title is a huge success for their team, who are brand new and in their first season here at TCR. So a big congratulations to them. Nick, let's go to you. While chat figures out who their driver of the day is, let's go to you for yours.
Oh, I mean, I predicted Matthew Johnson to get the victory. He probably could have if he actually made the moves done, but unfortunately a P4 finish, a disappointing P4 for Matthew Johnson, where it started where he qualified. So he couldn't make the moves done. Scott Taylor, what a man of the match performance that was, from 10th to 3rd place. So great strategy call there, running the Me Cougar strategy. And obviously, I'm pretty sure Ando Scott is going to be changing his passwords and getting that VPN a little bit more private to himself and to his teammates for the future. But my driver of the day, it's going to be going towards Jeremy Crow from PCR. I was thinking about Mark Pacheco, but I think Jeremy Crow has to take it because the way he's done it, he has done an absolute masterclass of defending from Matthew Johnson in those early stints, and most importantly, keeping that car pointy and in a straight and keeping it clean. A little bit of hip and barge between himself and Matthew Johnson in stint 1, but he held on to P2. He had a great performance, and I think my driver of the day is going to go to Jeremy Crow for an outstanding performance to finish on the podium and get PCR that second place in the team's championship.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much for that. 1 vote for Jeremy Crow, 1 vote for Shannon Jones, and we have had a second vote in chat for Shannon Jones. So 2 for Shannon Jones, with the comment being 5 weeks out to get pole and top 5 plus some entertaining moments. Chef's kiss. Very nice. Excellent. Love it. Okay, let's go to Andrew Scott for his driver of the day, and we'll be bearing in mind, everyone, stay tuned. This is not the end of the coverage. We've got the standings, the final standings, the numbers are being crunched right now in the background, and we've got Scott Taylor coming in for an interview in short order. So Andrew Scott, driver of the day and honourable mentions, please.
Yes, I will agree with you, George. There, I'm going to give my honourable mention to your driver, Shannon Jones, for a great pole position and a good attempt at a win there with a strategy that might not have been optimal. I think it's going to be an interesting off-season, actually. We're going to have to start a GoFundMe. We're going to have to try and buy Kung Fu Racing a laptop computer, maybe, or at least a tablet. And we might start one for Asta Racing too. We'll buy Morgan Davey an alarm clock. But other than that, I'm going to give my driver of the day, joint driver of the day once again. I don't know if it's allowed, but I'm going to do it anyway. For replicating, the Ford fans will remember this, replicating the 1977 Bathurst finished Alan Moffat, Colin Bond, 1-2 over the line. I'm going to give equal driver of the day to Pacheco and Birdman.
Okay, there we go. It's totally not allowed, but I guess we have to. So it's 0.5 to each of Pacheco and Crow. So that's 1.5 for Jeremy Crow, 2 for Shannon Jones and Mark Pacheco. And you know what? We've got someone who's entered the commentary box. So why don't we get a driver of the day from Scott Taylor? But first of all, congratulations to everyone in Season 3. He might give it to himself, so we might still have a split vote here. We shall see. A big congratulations to everyone in Season 3. What a season it's been. Huge entertainment here, and we've really had the pleasure of watching the antics, the ups and the downs, and the moments that you won't be forgetting anytime soon here at Season 3. It's been absolutely fantastic. And the man in charge and behind the scenes who's figuring out how to make the TCR Cup as entertaining and as fun as possible. It is Scott Taylor. A big thank you to yourself, Scott. Welcome into the commentary box. Nice to have you here. You've been on the pit lane most of the season and working on things in the background. Mate, how has Season 3 been for you? We need honourable mentions. We need driver of the day. We've got a lot to talk through, but mate, how has Season 3 evolved in your eyes? And welcome to the commentary box as well.
Hey guys, thanks for having me here. Now, this has been an absolutely fantastic season. We've just finished Season 3, and I think this has been the best season that we've had so far. We had Season 1, which was the one make in the Audis. We had Season 2 where we had 6 different makes. Then we went back to season 3, back to the 1 makes for season 3, and I think this has been some of the best and close racing that we've had out of any of the seasons. The championship came down to the absolute wire. It was a big surprise not having the Street to Track boys not turning up for this last round. That opened it up completely. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of work in the background to get this season up and running, and it hasn't been without its little hiccups along the way. But I think that's what makes it all interesting and makes it fun.
Yeah, I was going to say with the Street to Track boys by Steph Franson, who was leading the championship going into Bathurst and this round. Obviously, it was a little bit unfortunate to not see him there. Otherwise, we definitely would have seen a driver's title wrapped up for the Street to Track driver. So, have you had any word on where Steph Franson could have been over these last few weeks? Do you think he just missed his flights, or the car wasn't ready, or the car wasn't on the track, or just any outside things that happened to him? Do we know anything what happened to Steph Franson? Because I think all he had to do was just turn up at Suzuka, just drive the car around as slow or as fast as he wanted, and he would have wrapped up the drivers' championship.
I think he might have got poached by another team, another series, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Scotty?
I think he had a clash of dates. I think Street to Track signed on, entered Franson and Oswald into another series that just unfortunately clashed with these last 2 rounds. And obviously, it was their call whether they came to TCR or to this new series, and they made the call that they thought suited them best, whether it was to do the least amount of travelling or the least amount of setup or something, I'm not sure. But yeah, unfortunately, just a clash of dates, and really blew the championship wide open.
Oh, what a championship it was. We saw Nick Pfaff. We're going to see the championship results very shortly, but it's potentially going to go towards Nick Pfaff from Asta Racing, a man that hasn't won a single race in season 3. He's been getting multiple podiums and some good top 5 finishes. It's replicating what was a 2005 Russell Ingall championship in the V8 Supercars. All you have to do is just finish the race, finish on the podium. Championship.
Dylan Scarborough also did the same thing in the AM division in the season 1 of the GT3s. He ended up being the AM champion driver without winning a race for the entire season. So yeah, it just goes to show that consistency is sometimes much better than outright pace. If you can be a lot more consistent and get those second and thirds, all it takes is for someone who's leading the championship to miss a round or 2, and all of a sudden you're right up there in the box seat.
Yep, exactly right. So, Scott, I need to ask, honourable mention and driver of the day today. Do you have anyone in particular in mind yourself, perhaps?
Honourable mention, I think it would definitely have to go to Shannon Jones for his efforts. He missed as you've previously said, he's missed the last 5 rounds, and to come out and put the car straight on pole position and lead like he did, and it was just unfortunate that he had that off at turn 1 right at that critical stage of the race. So he definitely gets an honourable mention. I think the driver of the day would definitely have to go to one of the PCR boys. I can't really split them, but I'm not going to give it to both of them. I'll leave it a bit up in the air. I'll just say one of the PCR boys. They can fight it out amongst themselves as to who I'm talking about. But to pull off the strategy that they did and be able to come out on top, that was an incredible drive from them, to not make any mistakes and just stick to their strategy and stick to their guns. And that was really well done from them.
Yeah, yep. And as well, I think with Ando Scott, maybe he might be able to chime in a little bit. Obviously, he was kind of looking at the data and the analytics of what the strategy was going to be for this round at Suzuka for round 8 of the Trak Racer TCR Cup. So the two-stop was on the cards there for you as well as him. It obviously worked for Ando Scott, as we know he's a very consistent driver, but you as well, you kind of matched the pace, the consistency of tyres and fuel like Ando Scott. So were you a little bit surprised to see the PCR boys actually running a little bit longer? You just weren't able to close up a little bit because with what we saw with Ando Scott, his progression was a little bit faster, but it looked like you got caught up in a lot of traffic in your stages of the race because you were setting 2-minute 10s, high up 2-minute 9s, but then as soon as you caught up to the traffic, it just dropped down to the 2-minute 14s, 15s, and 12s at one point until you cleared that traffic. But once you cleared it, you're straight away back into the pit lane. So do you think you could have done maybe something a little bit different, or were you just happy to run with the Plan A strategy?
Yeah, I was just happy to run with the Plan A strategy. I mean, I wasn't in any contention for championships, and Gridline wasn't in any contention for teams championships. So, I thought I've got nothing to lose here by trying the two-stop, 1 lap on hards, and then 10 laps on softs, and then 9 laps on softs. I think what hurt me the most was a poor qualifying session.
Yep.
I wasn't able to get a decent sort of lap in until the last few minutes where I put a fresh set of softs on, did my out lap, just centered on the last lap, and I was up by about 0.7 on my best time at the second last sector. But then as I came through that final chicane, just cut it a bit close and got a half-second penalty, which transferred to a 1-second penalty, and as I crossed the line, and that was the end of that. So it was a 10th place start. So I think probably just having a poor qualifying and just having poor track position at the start is what hurt me the most. So
Yes, indeed.
Still 10th to third. It's pretty good effort. So
still 10th.
it was a good
10th to third.
recovery after a poor quali. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not frowning at that, but I sort of can't help but think, what could have been if I had have started a bit further up the field in, maybe 4th or 5th or something.
Yes.
Well, there you go. It just proves that crime doesn't pay. If you're going to steal the Me Cougar strategy, then you got to pay the price. Yeah.
I think steal is a bit of a strong word there.
Yeah, you need to change the password from password, mate.
You might have overheard it. Okay, you happy? Is that more like what happened?
Like I've said previously, once we get a couple of beers into the Me Cougar boss, it's quite easy to get information out of him.
I think there's the confirmation. So it was, in fact, you, Scott Taylor, that handed the Asahi to Andrew Scott when he was on the pit lane at the beginning of the reporting of the stream.
Yeah, sure was.
Very good work.
Snuck in there and just snuck him over.
Excellent. All right, so we've got to ask as well, so we don't want to drone on for too long, but we need to ask about what's coming up, because Season 3 has had some of the best TCR racing that we've seen in those 3 seasons. What are we looking forward to maybe in Season 4? Do we have something on the cards? Is there anything that you can talk to us about with regards to Season 4? Because I tell you, everyone is excited about what's next.
Yeah, I have got a couple of ideas in mind for Season 4. There are, as TCR is predominantly front wheel drive cars, and there are only a certain amount of Group 4 front wheel drive cars in the game. That sort of limits me a little bit, but I am sort of looking at various options, maybe to even move away from the Group 4 cars and maybe start looking at some road cars and maybe introduce that special T word. But I'll have to do some testing and get some data gathering over the off season while Carrera Cup and GT3s are on, and just sort of work away in the background there and see what we can come up with. See what
Excellent.
Sort of works out best.
Excellent. We are all incredibly excited to see what is going to be announced for Season 4, because it's such good fun here at the TCR Trak Racer Cup. And I think we all here in the commentary box and all the drivers and team owners need to say a big thank you to yourself, Scott Taylor, for putting on such a great series for us.
No, it's been my pleasure. It's a big thank you to you guys as well for all the team owners and the drivers for turning up each week, because it's you guys that make it. Without you guys, we don't have any racing. Big thank you to you guys.
I think if you actually say that to real world commentators, they'll be absolutely they'll be laughing their pants off because it's like if you're like you don't thank the commentators. It's like well if the FIA Motorsport Australia they're the ones that are putting the show. We're just here to call cars on track for 20 laps of racing or 40 laps in total of racing. So that's our job. But we love it. We absolutely love the commentary here. We love getting together, myself, George, and Ando. We love this series, and it just throws up so many mix of strategies. And we see some solid performances from drivers we've never heard of, as we saw with Matt Donetti, Luke Stone, Steph Franson, Nick Pfaff. Just to name a few of some of the top drivers that we've never seen before, and
Yeah.
pulling, punching above their weight, and just showing what they can do, and they're surprising us in the commentary box. So it's great that you guys have a great driver pool and great recruitment as well. So we're very excited to see what's coming up for season 4. And if you're looking to venture away from the Group 4 machinery and looking to go road car, I mean, George, I think that's going to be spicy in itself, and I can't wait for that as well.
That's going to be very, very interesting. We've had a comment in chat saying, keep the Mazda 3s. Racing was awesome. Well, there we go. There's a vote for that direction as well. Do we have a final question here for Scott Taylor? We've got the results. They're coming in right now. The numbers have been calculated. So we're about to go to our team standings and driver standings, the final calculations, before we round out the stream to round out season 3. Nick, Ando, any final questions for Scott Taylor? And then we'll go to you, Scott Taylor, for a final comment before we jump into those standings and head off.
I don't know, so obviously, you've given Ando, you gave Ando the green flag while he had an Asahi beer going into lobby 2. He was waving the green flag whilst he looks like he was in a bit of he was in a Yoshi costume as well. So I'm not so sure if that's very great advertising for MotorMotion E-Series. But what in that mindset did you think? You said well, it's probably the last race. He's here for fun. He just jumped off a flight. He just got to the track. You gave him an Asahi beer, but I think you just gave him a little bit too much overconfidence there to say, have another one. And then you decided green flag to get. You said to him, "Here, take the green flag. Wave us to go." So it's like, what in the mindset are you thinking of, man?
Yeah, it's all just a bit of fun. He could have said no if he wanted to, but being the showman that he is, he couldn't help himself. So he said, "Hold my beer." I'm like, "No, you hold it, mate. You hold it."
Yeah. I just wish I hadn't have dropped it.
So the track marshals were not particularly happy with you. Right, any final comments from you, Scott Taylor? I mean, obviously just a big thank you from everyone for the organization and what you do in the background. It's a huge amount of work that goes into this in the background of things. But a final comment for you, then we'll head over to our final standings of season 3.
No, I think everything that's needed to be said has been said. We've had a great season. It's been the best one yet, and I've really got my work cut out for me to be able to top it for season 4.
Absolutely right. All right, we look forward to season 4. Big thank you to yourself, Scott Taylor, for jumping into the commentary box with us. And now we get to go to our final standings. Here they are. Well, the team standings, we know where these are landing at because me, Cougar Driver Development, took the team's title in round 7. But PCR jumping up into P2 to take the second position in the driver's team's title, I should say. That's a fantastic effort for them and a team on debut in season 3 as well. So fantastic work by them in the background. They've done a lot of work and they work together very, very nicely, Mark Pacheco and Jeremy Crow. Then Asta Racing in P3 on 733 points, followed by Hasselone Motorsports, 2 teams that could have been even better, both of them, but nonetheless had a fantastic season out. A lot of new drivers coming in for both teams, so an interesting way for them to run through season 3. We look forward to seeing them back in season 4. Hooncorp Esports in P5, followed by Lightning Motorsports and Juice Motorsports, P5, 6, and 7. Then it is Gridline Racing in P8, Street to Track in P9. Again, what could have been for them? They had a mix of drivers, one who was very, very fast, one that was maybe slightly slower, and then Mad Turtle Racing in P10. Then Wicked Awesome Racing also on debut here at the TCR Cup in P11, followed by CP Motorsports, a season to forget maybe for CP. Then Kung Fu Racing Team in P13, Lucky 13 there, also on debut, and rounding out the grid for the team's title is Colin Racing Team. So let's have a little look at the driver standings because this is what we're all waiting to see. Has Nick Pfaff taken it? Yes, he has. Nick, over to you. Let's go through some of the results here, but Nick Pfaff is our Season 3 TCR Cup driver champion on 445 points at Asta Racing.
Wow, 6 points separating Nick Pfaff and Steph Franson. What could have been the perfect season for Steph Franson? Unfortunately, due to other commitments, he had to unfortunately leave the Trak Racer TCR Cup series. And he was praying for his dominance that he's shown all season from round 1 all the way to round 6. He thought that was enough for him to be able to win the Drivers' Championship. Unfortunately, a missed round at Bathurst and a missed round here at Suzuka has cost him dearly, and has cost him 6 points difference between himself and Nick Pfaff. So Nick Pfaff, he is the Russell Ingall of MotorMotion E-Series for the Trak Racer TCR Cup. He is your Season 3 2024 Trak Racer TCR Championship, getting Asta Racing, the newly branded Asta Racing first team championship in TCR. So well done to the man in Nick Pfaff, car 92. Obviously trying to do some donuts in his car, but it's very impossible to do with these cars unless you throw some metal trays underneath the front wheels and just go spinning 360. That's the only way to do it. Matt Donetti, what a season it's been for him. He was only 4 points behind Steph Franson as well. So Matt Donetti, what a fantastic season he has. And Ando Scott, 2 points behind him. So, as we said, theoretically, he could have had a go at winning the championship if Matt Donetti.
I got pole.
Yeah,
in the last race, I could have. Oh, damn it!
So literally, between the top 4, it's only about 12. It's only 12 points. Matthew Johnson not too far behind, 22 points behind in 5th place, tied with Mark Pacheco. So Mark Pacheco's victory in this race has actually promoted him up into position 6, but it's an equal 5th for Mark Pacheco after that famous victory. Scott Taylor, as we just heard from the man in the commentary box, has rounded up in position 7 for Grid Line Racing on 400 points. But my goodness, what a close championship that was for the top 4. Ando Scott missing 2 rounds as well. Reminding our viewers at home, he did miss 2 rounds. One of the drop rounds got included as subtracted from his total results, but one of them unfortunately wasn't. So he did end up on 0 points. So we could have been singing praises for another man, George. And but it is Nick Pfaff, and I think Dylan Scarborough and his team are more. I'm pretty sure hopefully they're welcome to the Me Cougar party bus, because it looks to be kicking off for the Me Cougar boys.
Yep, too right. So what a season it has been, so close to the end there. And yes, we had a few drivers not able to make rounds during the season, but that is just the way that motorsports go at the end of the day. We're going to have some final comments from our commentary team in a few moments, but before then we've got the second row grid here. Luke Stone, Mick Hill, Lewis Atkinson, Jeremy Crow, Dean Van der Zant, Rob Jacobs and Boris Blazanek. And we've got Tony Griffin, Mitch Collin, DeMorgan Davey, Troy Britnell, Mark Hasseldine, Andrew Enks, and Colin Fee. And then the last 7 drivers here: Michael Daly, Matthew Hatton, Brett Allen, Jason Oswald, Dave Chucky, Chris Padajak, and Shannon Jones. You can go back on the live stream anytime you want and have a look at the final driver standings, or go to MotorMotion eSeries.wordpress.com and you will find the TCR series information and final standings on the website. So that is essentially us here at the TCR Trak Racer Cup for Season 3, and it's been a wonderful season. I've really enjoyed myself. We've had a blast here in the commentary box, and we've certainly enjoyed the analytics as well, down from the pit lane. So big thanks to both of you guys. Let's have some final comments, and we will start to round out this stream, and we will head to our season break. We've got Carrera Cup Season 2 coming up, GT Champs as well, and then we'll be looking forward to an announcement about Season 4 coming up. So Nick, over to you for some final comments. We'll go to Andrew after that, and then we will be closing off the stream.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I don't want to end this season. I just want more rounds of TCR racing. This has been an absolutely brilliant season, and I do want to thank Scott Taylor and Dylan Scarborough for putting in the time they can. Especially Scott Taylor, really putting in the work to get this TCR Cup underway. Obviously, we did see the introduction of the Mazda 3s through many updates ago. We looked at that car. We thought, what a weapon of a car that is going to be to drive. And I wonder if MotorMotion was going to utilize that to its full advantage, and they did. And what a season it has been. It's probably been the best season we've seen of racing. The Audi TTs was special. The mixed categories of cars, the mixed cars in Season 2 was also a very special one, but I think this one definitely topped it off as probably one of the best seasons we've seen in MotorMotion E-Series. But it's only 8 rounds. I wish there was more, because I love hanging out with you, George, and I love hanging out with you, Ando, Scott, in the commentary booth. It's been absolutely beautiful. We've been to many sites of the world here on the calendar, and I would love to see more tracks involved. So if we could get a petition to have more rounds of TCR racing, I know it's probably not the staple series, but I think the GT3 Championship is the staple series of MotorMotion. But if we can make this TCR the staple show of the championship, I think we can definitely enjoy ourselves a little bit more, and we can get some more racing in the TCR Cup. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I loved the racing here, and I love being in the commentary box with you, George. You know, bringing the broadcast, bringing the live stream, getting us all of the hype before the live stream and the premieres on YouTube, on the MotorMotion E-Series YouTube channel. So thank you so much for your efforts, and none of this would be done without you, my good friend. So well done, and thank you very much for it.
Thank you very much. And everyone in chat, please give Nick Pautasso a big thank you. He's been alongside all the way through the seasons at TCR Cup, and always an ever eloquent and informative voice in the commentary box and on the broadcast. And Andrew, let's have a final comment from yourself before we head off.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks to yourself, George, and Nick, for giving up your time each weekend to do these broadcasts. Thanks to Scotty and Dylan, the admin team, and a special shout out to Mick Hill, my teammate. Me, Cougar, we did it again, mate. The three-peat was on it, and we did it. So we aimed at it, and we executed. So well done. And just for Dylan there and admin there, when you're working out the Wall of Champions, mate, there's it's 2 T's in Scott, and it's Hill with 2 L's. Yeah.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Andrew Scott. You've been incredibly good in the pit lane for us, giving us the analytics that we need to bring even more information and knowledge into this stream. So really, really appreciate it. So on the ground approach, and it's been incredibly factual. So to both yourself, Nick, and Andrew, a huge thanks. You guys have been absolutely awesome. Big thanks, of course, as well to Scott Taylor and Dylan Scarborough, who've been working in the background. They've enabled us to do the stream here, given us the creative freedom we need to bring you a top quality broadcast. And of course, we can't go any further without thanking the team owners and the drivers. The liveries have looked awesome this season. The drivers have been on point. The strategies have been here and there, mostly here, I would argue. So it's been a fantastic season of racing here with the Mazda 3 Group 4 cars at the TCR Trak Racer Cup at MotorMotion E-Series. Some final notes before we go for the final time. www.motormotioneseries.wordpress.com. Go to the website, news articles, standings, sign-ups, and everything is there. That is your source of information, your source of truth. Head over to facebook.com as well and search up MotorMotion E-Series, because we've got the paddock, we've got the main page. Jump over, get involved in this awesome community. So much racing to come up ahead of us in 2024, and we are going to leave it there. A big thank you to everyone. It's been awesome, and we look very much forward to Season 4. We've been to Brands Hatch, we've been to Spa, we've been to the Nürburgring, we've been to Watkins Glen, Laguna Seca, and Daytona, and then to Bathurst and Suzuka. Season 3, 8 rounds complete here, with me, Cougar Driver Development, as your team's title champions, and Nick Pfaff for Astor Racing as your driver's champion. Thank you very much, and we are going to sign off now in the commentary box. Take care, stay safe. We'll see you in the next broadcast, and thank you once again. Good evening, good night, and goodbye.